On the bridge where the tide can't flow, snap vivid like the Nikon. Been cold with the vibe warm, keep it locked like the vice arm. They got her twisted like the coat arm, heart something froze like the snowstorm. Her tote bag match her throat charm. She from the land of the sand where they flex so subtle when her drink mint muddle. Left home and her man in the game that he played for the sand of the shade. She parades you to square in her shades. She like why you do that, niggas be deceptive. Young pretty restless, long as the check is addressed to a residence. She self-heal therapy, she retail on clearance, but she shopping for clarity. Reap what she sold for the dividend. Know what time is the medicine, copping the wristwatch. Cartier with the bezel on her credit, demanding hers where it's due. I swear she's so sadistic, defensive, pessimistic, reclusive. She too lit, independent. She too quick to dismiss courtship, concerned with malice. She pile up as the bout ends. She throws a talent. She clutch a half full chalice. Sip you from fountains. Check her rap. She chic, maneuver mountains.
Fly away with you. Escape the negative. I'm just trying to let time out. Fly away with you. Escape the negative. I'm just trying to let. So girl, come on, let's fly. Girl, come on, let's fly.
I let the thumbnail distract me from the bigger picture. Losing sanity to misplaced feelings. Real shit kept keeping her makeup bristles. Hotline blink, she sent 1,000 kisses. I just tripped, I sold 1 million tickets. I'm way too focused on this image lately. My mind is racing, million miles a minute. No time to slide, I guess I'm bad with distance. I never text you back, lately my thoughts they drifted around the shots to keep us all from losing who we are. We're products of a generation where we swiping left across the interfaces. Out my mind, I tend to be evasive. Yeah. All to notice how the money made us.
Girl, come on, let's fly. Girl, come on, let's fly. Girl, come on, let's fly away. Girl, come on, let's fly. Girl, come on, let's fly. Girl, come on, let's fly.
Yo, what up, y'all? It's your boy Rob coming back at you once again with another live stream. So before we get started, you already know what to do. If you're not subscribed to the channel, make sure you hit the bell icon twice. Smash the like button. Blah. Your boy been doing too much all day on robot mode. Saying the wrong things, doing the wrong things, got the wrong screens up, trying to fit it all in for y'all, man. My bad. What's good? Hopefully everybody is doing good tonight. If you guys can hear me okay, y'all know what to do. Give me a thumbs up or a radiation emoji in the chat if everything looks and sounds good. If it looks or sounds bad or you can't hear anything at all, then give me a thumbs down or angry face. While you guys are doing that, I'm going to shout out everybody in the building early, all right? Shout out to DeAndre. It's good to see you as always, bro. Shout out to Vovo2 Love in the building. Shout out to President 48th United States. Shout out to DSB. Shout out to AW1. Shout out to the Black Klansman that thinks somebody is intimidated by his trolling and his comments and who he's going to run and tell that's not going to do anything about anything because this is YouTube. What's good with everybody? So what we're about to do is the first thing before we get into talking about the debate is we're going to talk about your boy Elon Musk. Shout out to Kid Gravity because Kid Gravity had said a long time ago that he felt that Elon Musk might sell Twitter after the 2024 election. I don't know if that's going to happen yet, but there's some things that are taking place right now that make that seem like it's very likely that that could be a thing. Here's my question for you guys. How many people are aware of what's going on with Twitter? If you guys have heard about what's going on with Twitter, give me a thumbs up. If you guys have not heard about what's going on with Twitter, then give me a thumbs down. Got an article right here from Benzinga. And it says, as Twitter's revenue collapses by 84%, Tesla bulls fear Elon Musk will liquidate more Tesla stock, bringing its value down for everybody. Twitter's revenue collapsing by 84% is wild. How does your revenue go down like that? How do you mismanage a company like that? Like, that's crazy. You know what I'm saying? So now here says Elon Musk is facing serious financial problems at X, formerly known as Twitter, since he bought the platform. Its revenue has dropped by an incredible 84%. Now, let me ask you guys this question. What do you think contributed to the drop in revenue? Is there something in particular that might have just turned people off from X or what? Creating this huge financial gap that Musk might have to fill by selling more of his Tesla stock. Now, if he sells more of his Tesla stock, then what's going to happen is he's not going to have as much of an ownership interest in it. Right? This has some Tesla investors worried, as selling more stock would cause Tesla's value to drop, hurting everyone who owns shares in the company. All right? So I can only imagine what those board meetings are looking like. Musk bought Twitter for $44 billion, but turning the company around has been a big challenge. The New York Times recently reported that X made only $114 million in revenue in the U.S. during the second quarter of 2024, according to documents they obtained. This is a massive drop compared to $661 million in the same quarter in 2022 before Musk took over. After we account for inflation, that's a drop of a whopping 84%. Yo, that's crazy. If that was any other business and Musk didn't have any of those businesses to float this up, man, they would be down and out. They would be down bad. Shout out to Vampire Hunter Greg. What's good with it, bro? The main reason for this decline is that advertisers has pulled out largely because of Musk's controversial statements and actions. To make matters worse, X has sued some of these advertisers, which could scare off even more business. Okay, so we're going to take a quick look at this. All right, I'll take a quick look at this and listen to this video here.
Meantime, 7 of the world's biggest banks, a multi-billion-dollar loan, and one of the most infamous names in tech had all helped power the Twitter takeover in 2022. But 2 years later, those lenders are still on the hook. Deirdre Bosa has more in today's Tech Check. Deirdre?
Hey, Kelly, Twitter, now X. It is the worst deal in the Musk universe, purchased for $44 billion.
You guys hear that, right? Twitter Twitter.com/X is the worst deal in the Musk universe. Shout out to Shaka. What's good with it, bro? Now, do you guys remember when everybody was talking about how good of a businessman Elon Musk was and how this is just going to make such a difference? We don't even know if the lights are going to be on or not anymore. You know what I'm saying? It might be under new ownership.
Meantime, 7 of the world's biggest banks, a multi-billion-dollar loan, and one of the most infamous names in tech. It all helped power the Twitter takeover in 2022. But 2 years later, those lenders are still on the hook. Deirdre Bosa has more in today's Tech Check. Deirdre?
Hey, Kelly, Twitter, now X. It is the worst deal in the Musk universe. Purchased for $44 billion in 2022. With the help of those banks, it has struggled to retain advertisers and lost 70% of its value, according to OneMark. It's the banks holding the bag. According to new data from PitchBook, the Twitter takeover now represents the worst buyout for banks since the 08-09 financial crisis. The idea
Man, that's crazy. That is crazy.
behind doing this deal in the first place was put up the capital, do a deal that deepens the bank's relationship with one of the world's richest men, then turn around and sell the loans or bonds to investors who might have more risk tolerance or believe that Twitter, now X, would improve under Musk. Instead, banks have been unable to sell that debt without taking huge.
No, hold on real quick, guys. Of course. This is one of those silent ones. If you guys haven't hit the like button yet, take a moment, hit that like button. Also, if you guys haven't shared, make sure you share.
Hung loans, as they're called, dents overall profitability for the banks. It increases their financial risk, and it reduces liquidity available for other deals. It hasn't, however, hurt Musk's own ability to raise money for other deals. $6 billion for his AI startup this year, much of that from venture capital. And here's the key difference. VC funds, they get equity or ownership in exchange for financing, so they don't have to hold on to that in the same way. Very different way. They also don't report quarterly, right? They can they don't have to mark down their investments every quarter like a bank might have to.
Always something to keep in mind here. Nevertheless, Deirdre, we just got some news as well I want to address. Shein, the fast fashion site, is now suing rival Temu for, quote, an unlawful enterprise built on counterfeiting, theft of trade secrets, infringement of IP
Shout out
rights,
to
and
P. What's
fraud
good with it, bro?
as they seek to infiltrate the U.S. These two, of course, have, you could argue, even taken share from Amazon. There's been fights over whether to include them in the NRF, whether they should have IPOs here, and so on and so forth. What do you make of this latest salvo?
It's so interesting to see them sort of battling with each other, right? These are Chinese-owned e-commerce platforms that have made huge inroads with the American
Shout out to
consumer
Win Lose a Rug. What's good with it, bro?
Very similar things. I mean, on the surface, it looks like the business model is very similar. You're selling extremely cheap goods at a discount, sort of bargain basement prices, in order to gain more scale and build habits among American consumers. It's hard to understand what's actually going on because Shein is not a public company. It's looking for an IPO in London, but that means that we don't know what a lot of the financials look like. With Temu, which is owned by PDD Group, Pinduoduo, that's the Chinese company, we know a lot more about it. So it's interesting to see Shein sort of take on Temu in this way before they're going to presumably release their financials. I mean, it could expose them to similar claims, right? Both of these companies rely on the gamification of e-commerce, which looks like, and I'm getting up to speed on this myself, which is what Shein is taking issue with.
Interesting. Okay, I totally agree. I mean, it's an interesting strategy of trying to shine a light on someone else to say, "Hey, we're trying to, we're something, we're legit, we're okay."
Yeah, and there's questions about the Shein business model. So I do wonder if this is the pot calling the kettle black, but we don't know. And I think that is the bottom line for investors. Shein is not public. We don't know a ton about its business model and financial.
And I keep going back to they're popular with consumers. It kind of reminds me of TikTok. They might be hated for a lot of what is going on, but they are popular with consumers, and that's going to carry them some.
So yeah, speaking of TikTok, has anybody heard anything new going on with TikTok? Let me know if you guys have or not. So now here it says, as Bradford Ferguson, President and Chief Investment Officer of asset manager Halter Ferguson Financial, said in a recent YouTube video, suing your customers might be a little challenging for your revenues. It's clear that X is in a tough spot financially, and something drastic may need to be done to keep the company afloat. So now we go to the fear of more Tesla stock sales. Musk might need to sell off some of his Tesla shares to deal with X's financial problems. This is making Tesla investors nervous as they remember what happened the last time Musk sold a large amount of Tesla stock. A few years ago, he sold about $40 billion worth of Tesla shares, which caused the stock price to drop significantly, all right? So, and that's a normal thing, right? Because when you're putting stock back into the market, you're increasing the supply. And if you increase the supply, that's going to drop the price, right? If you guys agree, give me a thumbs up. If y'all disagree, give me a thumbs down. So now here it says in the same YouTube video, equity analyst Matt Smith mentioned that Musk might need to sell between $1 and $2 billion worth of Tesla stock in succession to help X. Ferguson warned that this could cause Tesla's stock price to drop by 5 to 10%. Okay. So now they're asking about Elon Musk breaking his promise. Musk had previously promised not to sell more Tesla shares until 2025, but with X's finances in such bad shape, he might have to back off of that promise sooner than expected. In December of 2022, Musk hinted that if things got worse, he might need to sell off more Tesla stock around late 2024 or early 2025. Now, here's my question. Why can't he just figure out a successful business model? Yeah, DSB did kill it in that last stream. Facts. Facts. Check this out. Look at this. Speaking of DSB killing it in the last stream, I got a new drop. Watch this. Who remember that game? If y'all remember that game, throw some flames in the chat. If y'all don't remember that game, you know what I'm saying, and give me a thumbs down. I'm going to play it one more time for y'all. Shout out to PJ Allen. What's good with it, bro? So now here it says it wouldn't be the first time he broke such a promise either, because he famously tweeted in April of 2022, no further TSLA Tesla sales planned after today, but then sold billions of dollars worth of Tesla stock. Okay. So it's looking pretty bad for Twitter. Not bad for Elon Musk because he got all these revenue outlets. You know what I'm saying? He can just easily sell that stuff. But I don't know, man. If he ends up having to sell, that's not going to be good. Now, I got a question for you guys. How many people heard about that individual that tried to, or they had a conspiracy plot to delete Biden, Harris, and Obama? Shout out to Adranio. What's good with it, bro? Nah, it was a game called Pit Fighter. Y'all ever heard of Pit Fighter? It's an old school game. It was an arcade game. I think they might have made it for like Nintendo or like Sega later on, but it was an arcade game. So let's check this out real quick.
We're following breaking news of political threats tonight. A Memphis man is accused of threatening the lives of the president, vice president, and a former president. Good evening, and thank you for joining us. I'm Stephanie Skurlock.
And I'm Greg Hurst. WRG's Alan Self traveled to South Haven to talk with the man's parents about their son, who is now accused of being behind the menacing messages. And Alan, what they have to say?
Kyle Hall's parents are saying he's battling mental illness. They don't believe prison is the solution, but they say they've done all they can.
They always say that. How many times have we heard that? I mean, like, it's just always the same thing every single time. Yeah, it was. Shout out to Adranio. Yeah, it was. It was like Mortal Kombat, like back in the day, a little bit.
Parents about their son, who is now accused of being behind the menacing messages. And Alan.
Oh, snap. Shout out to P with the £5 super chat. Make sure y'all show him some love. Throw some flames, some radiation emoji, and some ducks in the chat for P, funding the organization.
How do you think that we fund this organization, huh? We're not exactly the March of Dimes.
The money, y'all. There's poor people around. I'm rich, bitch.
Definitely appreciate it, bro. Definitely appreciate it.
What they have to say?
Kyle Hall's parents are saying he's battling mental illness. They don't believe prison is the solution, but they say they've done all they can to support their son.
What he's doing now is just so bizarre. It's scary. You know, you just don't know when he's going to snap.
A federal indictment charges Kyle Hall with threatening President Biden,
What's
Vice
good with it,
President
Corey?
Harris, and former President Obama. The 3 charges carry up to 5 years in prison each. His mother tells us he's dealt with schizophrenic issues for years. She says the family has had to call police multiple times.
He was on the back patio just talking to God and just spewing things, and cops were standing there looking at him like, wow, this kid's really weird.
The indictment says Hall's social media posts.
Man, that's crazy to be up there. That's crazy to be on the news just sitting there talking about your kid like that. That's crazy.
God, and just spewing things, and cops were standing there looking at him like, wow, this kid's really weird.
The indictment says Hall's social media post, made on July 27th, threatened to kill, assassinate, shoot, and crash the plane of President Biden, assassinate Vice President Harris.
Shout out to my man Corey. Make sure y'all show Corey some love. Throw some flames, some radiation emoji, and some ducks in the chat for Corey funding the organization.
How do you think that we fund this organization, huh? We're not exactly the March of Dimes.
Get the money, y'all. There's poor people around. I'm rich, biatch.
Daily Ties. Definitely appreciate it, bro. Shout out to Ann. Ann says, Mom looks weird too, but I'm not judging. Yeah, for real though. For real though, don't she? Shout out to Win Lose a Rug. Win Lose a Rug said incel vibes for sure. For sure.
Harris and assassinate former President Obama. The family says they feel like they've done all they can to help Kyle.
It hurts us, and just what he's going through mentally. There's nothing that we can do for him. We tried to get him on meds and got him committed to the hospital and stuff so he could get help. And there's just not much more we can do.
However, they say they don't feel like prison is the solution.
He doesn't need to spend time in jail. He's done that, and that's done nothing but made things worse for him.
Kyle's parents say he was first diagnosed with multiple mental illnesses when he was 7 years old. For your news leader in downtown Memphis, I'm Alan Self, WREG, News Channel 3.
All right, so there's that. Yeah, man. Wild people on the loose. You know what I'm saying? So next, what we about to do is we are about to take a look at some pathway to citizenship policy of the Biden administration that just recently got knocked down by the Supreme Court. Okay. So let's take a look at this. Give me 1 second.
And some breaking news on the immigration front. A federal judge has just dealt a pretty big blow to one of President Biden's immigration policies that offered a path to citizenship for undocumented immigrants who are married to American citizens. Now, the judge ruling in favor of a legal push from a group of 16.
Now, how many people heard about this? This is something that has kind of been discussed like in the last week or two. They've been talking about this legal pathway for citizenship for people who are undocumented, who are married to Americans. If you guys heard about this particular policy, give me a thumbs up in the chat. If you guys did not hear about this, then give me a thumbs down.
And some breaking news on the immigration front. A federal judge has just dealt a pretty big blow to one of President Biden's immigration policies that offered a path to citizenship for undocumented immigrants who are married to American citizens. Now, the judge ruling in favor of a legal push from a group of 16 Republican AGs looking to prevent that policy from being implemented. And now a group of immigrants is fighting back. Here's what one of those immigrants told NBC's David Noriega.
I've been in this country since second grade.
So see, look. So there we go. Hold on. Let's see what this says. Hold on.
Now a group of immigrants is fighting back.
All right. So, yeah. So on the headline here, it says immigrant families file motion to defend Biden program as Republican states sue. Okay. As Republican states sue. So let's see what they're talking about.
Here's what one of those immigrants told NBC's David Noriega.
I've been in this country since second grade. I went to elementary here. I pledged allegiance to the flag. I took an oath to protect the United States Constitution. I am protecting citizens in my city every day. So what harm are you facing when I'm paying taxes? How is Texas or any states showing harm in here when it's all benefit that spouses of U.S. citizens are contributing?
So let's bring in NBC News correspondent David Noriega with the latest. David, this thing called parole in place. What was it before this afternoon, and what happens to it now?
Yeah, so the way it works is if you're undocumented and you marry a U.S. citizen, you do have a path to a green card and eventually citizenship. But to apply, you have to leave the country, and that's a huge risk because you risk being permanently separated from your family in doing so. What parole in place did was it allowed people to apply for green cards and citizenship without leaving the country, keeping.
Now, let me ask you guys this. How many people are okay with this? If you're cool with this policy, if you think that this is okay, give me a thumbs up. If you think that this is kind of shady, if it's kind of weird, if there needs to be some reevaluation and tweaking done, then give me a thumbs down.
their families together. That's why the administration gave it that name. Now, the government started accepting applications for this program a week ago. Lots of people applied. I've spoken to several people who applied. But now what this judge in Texas has ruled is that for at least 14 days and possibly longer, the federal government cannot grant these applications. So people can still apply. They can still send in the paperwork, and maybe it'll be approved sometime in the future, depending on what happens in the court case. But for now, the government cannot grant parole in place. I was just on the phone with Fode, who you saw in that video, literally a few minutes ago when this news came down. He described it as feeling like a knife to the gut. This feeling like this potential huge change in his life was right in front of them and then was taken away again.
And so this is a 14-day stay, and then it goes back to court, I imagine, right? I mean, what happens next?
Right. So the judge can extend the 14-day stay. And I would say that given how quickly he issued this stay, this is a Trump-appointed judge in East Texas. The state of Texas filed this case in a division of the Eastern District of Texas where there are two judges, both Trump appointees. So they were guaranteed to get a Trump-appointed judge. He acted very quickly in slapping down this program. Before the federal government could even reply with a briefing in court, he paused it. So I think that's an indication of where he stands on this case. And I think I don't want to predict, but I wouldn't be surprised if he extended the stay for the entire duration of the court case. The big question then is we're going to run into the election. And if we run into the election and former President Trump is once again president, he's likely to rescind this program altogether, in which case it will have barely had a chance to live.
What is the legal argument from these 16 AGs that are bringing this?
So they say that this program harms the states, the individual states filing a lawsuit and the United States, because their argument is that undocumented immigrants cost the states money in education and healthcare, and that a program like this draws future unauthorized migration. What the federal government and what these immigrants who intervened in the case are arguing is that they are, by definition, because of who applies for this program, they've lived in the United States for 10 years, they're married to U.S. citizens, often they have U.S. citizen kids, they say that they're taxpayers, they have mortgages, they have jobs, they say they contribute to the economy rather than taking away from it, and therefore they say the states are not going to be able to prove this harm, but that is up to the judge.
David Noriega with some breaking news tonight. David, thank you.
I think that the states can prove the harm. What do you guys think? If you guys think that the states can prove harm, give me a thumbs up. If you guys don't, then give me a thumbs down. It's just too much evidence out there showing the huge impacts that it has on systems, all throughout the city, all throughout the state. So on the mainstream media, everybody is saying that Kamala Harris is going to destroy Trump in the debate and that Trump is terrified. If you guys agree with that, give me a thumbs up. If y'all disagree with that, give me a thumbs down. You guys see this title, right? Kamala Harris will wipe the floor with Donald Trump in debate. Now, take a wild guess who said this. Elizabeth Warren said this. Okay, so let's see what her rationale is for saying this.
So one of the things that has become pretty clear when it comes to the Trump fans ticket is they know they have a big problem with women voters and the issue of abortion rights. And they are pretty freaked out about it, clearly, because just consider what Trump did the morning after Harris delivered her DNC address. He jumped onto Truth Social to boldly, not in a good way, and falsely claimed that, quote, my administration will be great for women and their reproductive rights. Yes, this from the guy who constantly brags about killing Roe v. Wade. And then yesterday, in an interview with Meet the Press, his running mate, J.D. Vance, claimed that Trump is
the reproductive rights thing. So we're going to have to actually talk about the reproductive rights thing. I'm going to do a separate stream on that. Would you guys like that? Because we got to try to figure out how this reproductive rights thing continues to get coupled in with other issues that they put our faces on. How many people do you all see out here banging hard for quote unquote reproductive rights?
Is not at all going to do the thing that is so clearly written out in Project 2025. The thing some of Trump's strongest allies are pushing for, and the thing J.D. Vance himself even advocated for in 2022.
Senator Graham said to me, I'm going to keep saying that there should be a federal ban. If such a piece of legislation landed on Donald Trump's desk, would he veto it?
I think it'd be very clear he would not support it. I mean, he said that explicitly. Yeah, if you're not supporting it as the president of the United States, you fundamentally have to veto it.
So he would veto a federal abortion ban?
I think he would. He said that explicitly that he would.
There are a lot of things you could say about that back and forth in his answer, but I think Senator Elizabeth Warren said it best.
American women are not stupid, and we are not going to trust the futures of our daughters and granddaughters to two men who have openly bragged about blocking access to abortion for women all across this country.
Now, let me ask you guys, what do you all think about this right here? Shout out to DeAndre. Shout out to C. Miles. What's good with it? Prime time. Right? Prime time. Y'all already know what it is. They got Elizabeth Warren. You know what it is.
Women are not stupid. And joining me now is Democratic Senator Elizabeth Warren of Massachusetts. Senator Warren, it's great to see you. Thank you so much for joining me tonight.
Good to see you.
I wanted to start there and what J.D. Vance is now claiming. As you said, women aren't stupid. But I'm raising this because they're going to keep doing this, claiming that they are defenders of women's rights and abortion rights. And you are so good at many things, including succinctly giving people information. So how should people succinctly remind everyone out there what Trump and Vance actually stand for on abortion rights?
Okay, so let's start with, we all know what they're doing. They're just gaslighting us, right? And they think that we can't hear them when they talk to their radical base. So they go to the radical base. Trump did this just last week and bragged again about, I'm the guy that got rid of Roe versus Wade, right? He's the one that has now put us in this hole. And then he thinks he can turn around to the overwhelming majority of women and friends of women who think that what he has done is terrible. So here's the thing. I want to focus on where we are. You can almost laugh at what they've tried to do, except for the fact that 40% of all women in America now live in a state that effectively bans access to abortion. And that means that a woman, for example, can be in the middle of a miscarriage and she can go into an emergency room. She can be examined. The doctor can say, I know what it's going to take, the medical treatment you need, but you can't get it in this state because you're not near enough death. So please go out to the parking lot and hemorrhage for a while longer.
Let me ask you guys this question. Is this the usual situation where talks about abortion are applied? Is this the usual situation? A stillbirth or something like that? Is that the norm? It's fascinating how they'll take an extreme situation and attempt to paint the picture that that's the norm. Is that the most frequent situation that abortion is utilized for? If it is, give me a thumbs up. If it's not, give me a thumbs down.
Hours, maybe overnight, and then come back in just before you're about to die. And we can perform the abortion that you need. We can give you the medication that you need. That's where 40% of the women in America live today. Those are our sisters, our cousins, our friends. And if Donald Trump and J.D. Vance take over the White House, make no mistake, it won't be 40%. It will be 100%. And the way they can do that, they don't even have to have a Republican Congress.
Shout out to Detroit 313.
They know
What's good
this,
with it,
and
bro?
so does Project 2025 that has laid this out and said there's law right now on the books.
So again, don't forget, we're going to be still doing our Project 2025 discussions. So I haven't got them up yet, haven't had a chance to, but trust me, they coming. So make sure y'all got the bell icon hit twice to make sure that y'all locked in. You know what I'm saying? If y'all haven't smashed that like button, take a moment, help me out, do that real quick. And if y'all haven't shared the stream, take a moment, do that.
It's the Comstock Act, which if you get a Donald Trump person over in the Department of Justice and they bring it in front of a Donald Trump judge, then it will be possible to effect an abortion ban all across this country. No medication abortion and no surgical abortions, because the actual instruments themselves cannot be sent through the mails, cannot be sent across state lines. So here's the deal. They've got their plan. They know what they intend to do. And Donald Trump knows that the only way he hangs on to his radical base is to follow through on that plan. But he thinks if he lies to us loud enough and long enough and sends J.D. Vance out there to lie to us, that somehow we're going to fall for it. And we're not going to notice that J.D. Vance sent a letter last year to the Department of Justice telling them to enforce that very law, the Comstock Act. So I got to say on this one, I go through all the nerdy details because they are important, because it matters what's happening to women across this country and the threats we face. But I also just want to say on this one, we will not be fooled here. People's lives are at stake. We are talking about access to abortion. We are talking about access to contraception.
It's amazing to talk about lives at stake in this context, isn't it? Isn't it? If that's not like the pinnacle of hypocrisy, I don't know what is.
We are talking about access to IVF, and we do not believe as Democrats that the government should be making those decisions. We think that women should have the freedom to make those decisions with their doctors. And that's right there, the difference between Donald Trump and Kamala Harris, between the Republicans and the Democrats.
We will not be fooled, I think, is a thing women should be saying out there across the country. Let me ask you because about this debate about the debate, because when I talked to you the night that that Joe Biden decided he was no longer going to seek the nomination, you basically said that Trump is scared of a tough woman. A tough woman scares him. Do you think?
So, does this sound familiar? Yeah, she did. Facts. Shout out to Detroit 313. Detroit 313 said Elizabeth Warren has got to go. She held crypto in hostage. Yes, she did. She was one of the main ones, one of the main anti-crypto Democrats. So the issue must just be that Trump is scared of a strong woman. That just must be it. If there is a such thing, that must be it.
I think that's what's going on here.
Oh, I think Trump is really afraid of Kamala Harris, or as I like to think of it, the felon is really afraid of the prosecutor, and for damn good reason. She's smart, she's disciplined, and she's not afraid of a bully.
Here's my question. If she's so smart, if she's so disciplined, if she's so unafraid, when are we going to see her do that in media discourse? When are we going to see some of these skills flourish in interviews with the press? When is she going to do a question and answer at a town hall or something like that? If she is so, what do they call that? Extroverted. When are we going to see some good examples of that extroversion? If she has these things that Elizabeth Warren claims that she has, there should be no reason why they're not constantly on display. If she has these things that Elizabeth Warren says that she has, she's not doing herself a favor by not putting those things in the constant spotlight. But what it seems is happening is that she's trying to stay out of the spotlight. So why would she do that?
So there it is. Donald Trump is scared, and I got to say, I think his whole team is scared, and that's why they're trying to find ways to muzzle him, to make this debate not happen if possible, because Kamala Harris, she's going to wipe the floor with Donald Trump.
Now, I would, if I was these guys, I would be careful what I wished for, because Donald Trump actually knocked a presidential candidate completely out of the runnings, literally, during the debate, right? And here we are now with them again spinning the narrative. They're spinning the narrative. Where's the evidence that Trump is scared to debate her? Oh, yeah. Shout out to Corey Green. You can check out any of the most recent streams that I did. Check out any of them. Tomorrow, we're going to talk even more about the economic policy. But yeah, sorry.
We do have to sneak in a very quick break. I have many more questions. Thank you for sticking with us. We'll be right back with Senator Elizabeth Warren. We are back with Democratic Senator Elizabeth Warren. I wanted to play that because it was really moving to watch. And I think one of the reasons people were so passionate and you got the response you did is because you've been a champion of progressive economic policy for so long, and people in that room knew that. But you were quite overcome. What was it like in that moment? What was going through your head?
I felt so deeply grateful to be there. You know me, and you've known me for a long time. I've always been a total policy nerd, but I never thought I would have the chance to be in the fight and to be able to fight for so many important things and to be there with so many other people who are in that same fight. It really was overwhelming. Just amazing.
Policy nerds are important. We need policy nerds. I love them too. I consider myself one. Now, on that point, I think you've been an advocate for, we love policy nerds. You've been an advocate for so many important economic policies. They don't always get the attention they deserve. And one of them is affordable housing. And Vice President Harris put forward an ambitious plan. I would consider it one for affordable housing.
Now, how many people have seen the live stream that I did about these quote unquote economic plans, these quote unquote housing plans? Again, we're going to reiterate it again, but I would advise everybody to watch those streams and take notes. Because if you ask me, they sound a lot better than what they actually are going to do.
Housing, including a $25,000 tax credit for first-time home buyers, a $40 billion fund to encourage local governments to build more affordable housing. They don't always get the attention they need. We want to give it attention as policy nerds. Why is that such an important policy for the public out there?
So we have a housing shortage all over this country. Why are prices so high? It's Econ 101. We need more housing. And do you know who we need more housing for? Almost everybody. We need housing for first-time homebuyers. We need housing for people who rent apartments. We need housing for seniors. We need housing for people with disabilities. We need housing for singles. We need housing for people who are growing their
Where
families.
are we getting these numbers from? What are the indicators that say that we need all of this housing? And here's my question. Even if we do need all this housing, what's to say that the amount of money that they're taking out of the, I think it's the CARES Act to fund this is going to provide enough money for enough housing for what they need? I think they said they wanted to put up 40 million houses or something like that over the next 4 years. That's ridiculous. That's ridiculous. We'll go over this again in more detail.
We need housing in urban areas and suburban areas and rural areas, and we don't have enough. And we've known this now for decades, Jen. We sit by and the problem just gets worse and worse and worse. And so what Vice President Harris is proposing is something I'm also pushing out there. I'm 100% on this, is we need the federal government to be a good partner in building more housing locally. Federal government should not come in.
So more government involvement. They want the federal government to be a partner in everything.
And tell communities you need to build this and you need to build that. But to say instead, if you'll alter your policies so that you're building more housing for those first-time home buyers, for those renters, for those seniors and people with disabilities, we'll do the part the federal government can do. And that is be a partner to your community. We can put up the money so that you can have a new elementary school or a new sewage system or revitalize your downtown. Spend it in the ways you need in your community if you will bring down the price of building houses and getting more housing supply. Her goal is 3 million new housing units all across this country.
So that's what the goal is, 3 million new housing units.
And think about it this way. For middle-class families, being able to get on that train to buy that first house, that is the number one way that families build wealth and wealth that lasts. It's the number one retirement plan in America, and it is the number one way to be able to pass wealth on and help stabilize the next generation. And more housing is a way to be able to help close the racial wealth gap in America. It's a way to...
Now, we know the way to close the racial wealth gap, and it's not through housing. What's the way to close the racial wealth gap?
Build more economic security for everybody in this country. It is a fabulous proposal.
Now, we'll see how fabulous it is tomorrow. Okay. We'll take a look and see how fabulous it looks tomorrow. Now, Fox News came out with a clip, and they're asking the question, what will a Harris-Trump debate look like? And I'm curious because I honestly don't know. This is going to be interesting because you guys know Trump, he got Tulsi Gabbard, I guess, to help him prepare. And you saw how that Tulsi Gabbard, Kamala Harris didn't do real well against her in 2020. So I'm curious as to how this is going to look too. However, it looks like there might be some complications going into this debate because from what I understand, Trump said that he was okay with keeping the terms the same, and now there's some type of muted mic controversy. And with the muted mic controversy, the mainstream media is saying that Trump is backing out and that he doesn't want to debate.
Kamala Harris ever be forced to address the media and answer any kind of tough question at all. Joining me now is Mark Simone, WOR radio host, and Joe Concha, Fox News contributor and author of Progressively Worse. There's the picture of the book. Looks nice.
Thank you, David.
Another one. You keep turning these things out.
Yes.
All right, Mark, let me play a montage, as we say, from the Democratic National Convention of various Democrat congressmen and others with specifics or talking about not really having a need to get into specifics with Kamala. Roll tape.
I haven't heard from many voters looking for white papers and policy papers. What they want to hear is what her vision is for this country.
The American people.
So you heard that, right? They've got this compilation of all of these people sitting here saying that nobody wants to hear about what the policies are. How do people just ignore this kind of stuff? You know what I'm saying? I think one of the biggest things that people want to see is the actual policies. But then what ends up happening is that when people are asking to see policies, people are trying to shout them down and trying to intimidate people out of listening to these things so that they can compare them logically and see what they want to do. We have a lot of people, which we always have for whatever reason, on a shame campaign trying to stop people from voting their interest. It's really weird. Real quick, shout out to everybody that's watching. I appreciate you guys. We got 18 people watching. We got 18 likes. If y'all could throw the 100s in the chat, I greatly appreciate it. And if y'all could smash that like button and get us to 30, that'd be great.
As we say, from the Democratic National Convention of various Democrat congressmen and others with specifics or talking about not really having a need to get into specifics with Kamala. Roll tape.
I haven't heard from many voters looking for white papers and policy papers. What they want to hear is what her.
She said that she hasn't heard from any voters looking for white papers and policy papers. She clearly has never been on social media or hasn't watched YouTube or is not listening to any call-in radio shows or anything like that. Is that an honest statement that lady just made, that there's nobody looking for policy? That's unbelievable. You guys saw that, right?
With specifics or talking about not really having a need to get into specifics with Kamala. Roll tape.
I haven't heard from many voters looking for white papers and policy papers. What they want to hear is what her vision is for this country.
The American people don't vote on policy prescriptions. I actually think the way the American people think.
The American people don't vote on policy prescriptions. Did anybody vote for that individual there to say that for them?
I haven't heard from many voters looking for white papers and policy papers. What they want to hear is what her vision is for this country.
The American people don't vote on policy prescriptions. I actually think the way the American people think about this choice is less about the minutia of policy and more about the direction of the country.
Isn't that insulting to American voters, Mark?
This is the great. I can't wait to see how this works out. The media, the Dems colluding on this will be the greatest hoax ever pulled off. A blank candidate, an empty suit, no policies, no positions. How hard is it to go on a TV show and answer questions? We're doing it right now. It's easy. It's not hard. If they can pull this off, first of all, it'll be the most frightening thing in the world.
Yeah.
But I just got to believe in the American public and that this all will blow up in their face.
So voters, they just don't need any specifics about how their lives might be changed fundamentally by the next president.
When I heard that,
now I want you guys to pay very close attention. You guys see these fellas here having this conversation? Who's chasing them around, shaming them? Is anybody chasing these guys around, shaming them, telling them they shouldn't talk like that? They just need to throw their support behind somebody? So my question is, why do we got to deal with that?
To Nancy Pelosi, where she said, we have to pass the bill in order to find out what's
That's
in
right.
it. Remember
That's
that?
right, of course.
During the Democratic National Convention, Donald Trump's name was brought up 160 times on night one. It was brought up nearly 160 times on nights 2 and 3 combined. And on night 4, Kamala Harris's speech, David, she broached Donald Trump 15 times. You know what word she didn't bring up once during her 37-minute speech? Inflation. At last chance.
Or Afghanistan.
Or
That's
Afghanistan,
another.
for that matter. And what happened, by the way, to price fixing and controlling price gouging? That economic proposal that came out 10 days ago has vanished.
Well, not entirely. We just played, I don't think you heard, but
Okay.
we just played a soundbite from Gene Sperling, who I think is one of the people who came up with the idea on Thursday on Fox.
Yeah.
And he was.
Now, how many people knew about this price gouging policy? Now, why would the price gouging policy have disappeared? Shout out to DeAndre. DeAndre said, bro, left-leaning channels are saying she needs to get into office first, then she can tell us about her policies. Here's my question. Is that how all transactions work? Do you need to just give the people at the cash register some money and maybe they'll put the groceries in your cart? Like, really?
Happened, by the way, to price fixing and controlling price gouging. That economic proposal that came out 10 days ago has vanished.
Well, not entirely. We just played, I don't think you heard, but
Okay.
we just played a soundbite from Gene Sperling, who I think is one of the people who came up with the idea on Thursday on Fox.
Yeah.
And he was doubling down on it. So apparently he's the part of the team that wrote it. So
Yeah.
no wonder he wants to defend it.
But Kamala Harris hasn't talked about it in any way, shape, or form.
No, she hasn't.
And to Mark's point, how hard is it to prepare for an interview with The View or Rachel Maddow or Gayle King or pick anyone on CNN? That's the thing. The fact that she thinks she could Ron Burgundy her way all the way to the White House. Ron Burgundy,
Or
whatever you put in
Biden his way.
teleprompter,
I
Burgundy will read.
remember, Biden wouldn't even have a Super Bowl interview, which is one of the most softball interviews you can get as a president.
Yeah, but even in his basement days, you forget Biden did interviews every day. They weren't long. They were 10 minutes here and there, but he did it every day. I think one of the reasons she didn't want to talk about policy, she would have to get some to talk about it. I don't do interviews on physics.
Yeah, see, that's what I said in my last stream. And also another thing that she would have to do is if she had an interview on policy, since her policies are all extensions of past Biden era policies, we're literally watching what her policies would do right now. We don't need to ask her any questions because we're living through her policies. So if you're not satisfied with how your life is, then more than likely you're not going to be satisfied with another 4 years of her in office. And she has no way to defend against that because we haven't seen anything new from her. And we're living in what she has right now. If that makes sense, give me a thumbs up. If it doesn't, give me a thumbs down.
It's because I don't know anything. And I think that's why she doesn't talk about policy.
Oh, I wish I could interview her.
But while Gene Sperling is trying to defend price controls, I think you're absolutely right about the media. I think the media, because remember, CNN was against it. Washington Post, New York Times, the media did come out against it because they knew it's, they can read history. They know it's failed. But I have a feeling they got a phone call from some of their buddies in the White House saying, hey, guys, lay off. We'll talk about it eventually, but right now, lay off.
Yeah, so it is now incumbent upon Donald Trump during that debate on September 10th to bring it up. So you're for price fixing. You think the government should cap prices in supermarkets, for example, where they have, 1-2% profit margins? Explain further why you think that's a good idea. If I'm Trump, I ask Kamala Harris the questions. I don't depend on the moderators and let her try to explain something without that teleprompter, without pre-scripted remarks. I want to hear how she's going to end fossil fuels, which she said she was going to do, end all offshore billing, abolish ICE. You support sanctuary cities. Right. You're against border wall construction. You're against remain in Mexico. You want free healthcare for illegals. How's that going to work? Oh, you said you want to end the private health insurance industry. How's that going to work? Oh, you want to raise taxes. How high?
But you think it's the former president himself has got to ask the questions because you can't rely on the moderator for that.
Give his position in 20 seconds, which he can do, and then yield the rest of your time to Kamala Harris to explain her position. Put the focus on her, just like it happened on June 27th with Joe Biden. The more she talks, the more it's a human Chernobyl that we're witnessing because she doesn't have the ability to speak.
By the way, what are you guys hearing about the debate? I mean, with all these, there are questions now about whether it's going to go on. Will we see the debate on September 10th?
Now, if you ask me what I believe is going on, why we have the speculation of if the debate is going to happen anymore or not, is because as we're getting closer and closer to the time where Kamala Harris and Trump are going to have to square off, the realities of Kamala Harris having to be able to not have her hand held through things is coming true. And I think people are worried about the great implosion. People are worried about the great implosion that people might see if too much is exposed. So as a result of that, what we're going to do is we're going to try to create some noise. We're going to try to create some distractions, and we're going to blame all the noise and distractions on Trump and kind of sneak out the back door. That's what it seems like is happening anyway.
Probably. I assume from Trump this is a lot of negotiating, and he's brilliant at it.
He went with everything they threw at him for the first debate with Biden, though. He didn't. There was nothing. I mean, some of it his team found objectionable, but they went ahead and did it anyway.
Yeah, I think originally they were supposed to be seated. He got it back to standing.
Yes.
There'll be something here he wants to change. He want to make sure Stephanopoulos is nowhere near this. He's currently suing him, so that should be enough.
So there is a lawsuit current between Stephanopoulos. So it would be clear conflict of interest if he was the moderator. If Stephanopoulos was the
never
moderator.
affected ABC before.
Yeah, right. Why should it buy? So we used to leave it up to the League of Women Voters. For those who don't remember, they were the ones who were going to set the parameters of the debate. They did a fairly good job. I mean, you could criticize them one way or the other. Maybe they had a bias sometimes, but the fact is they did a good job, and they took it out of the hands of both candidates and the media specific. Should we go back to something like that? Where
absolutely, yeah, this shouldn't be something that's negotiated. Like, here are the rules, right? And that's the end of it. And Trump, I think it would be a good idea to have his mic muted again, because Kamala Harris, remember her debate with Mike Pence? Her big line was, "Excuse me, I'm speaking." Right. So if you can't cut her off, that line goes away. But
so they're already onto it. They're already onto the excuse me, I'm speaking. And excuse me, I'm speaking is something that's nonsensical. It carries no weight. It's not going to do anything. It's not going to help her with anything. It doesn't do anything. That only works for shame-sensitive simps, which is why the disaster at the professional journalism meeting took place that Trump went to, because that was their tactic of choice there. You know what I'm saying? Let me know what you guys think.
We used to leave it up to the League of Women Voters. For those who don't remember, they were the ones who were going to set the parameters of the debate. They did a fairly good job. I mean, you could criticize them one way or the other. Maybe they had a bias sometimes, but the fact is They did a good job, and they took it out of the hands of both candidates and the media specific. Should we go back to something like that? Where
Absolutely. Yeah, this shouldn't be something that's negotiated. Like, here are the rules, right? And that's the end of it. And Trump, I think it would be a good idea to have his mic muted again, because Kamala Harris, remember her debate with Mike Pence, her big line was, "Excuse me, I'm speaking. I'm speaking."
Right.
So if you can't cut her off, that line goes away. But you're right about the media. Boy, I mean, we saw today, for example, the Washington Post actually put out a story saying that Doug Emhoff, the husband of Kamala Harris, is the modern day sex symbol. Quote, "Move over, Ryan Gosling," unquote. If you just want to look.
Yeah, I'm just gonna run that back so y'all can hear that, because that now we're going down the rabbit hole of crazy land.
who were going to set the parameters of the debate. They did a fairly good job. I mean, you could criticize them one way or the other. Maybe they had a bias sometimes, but the fact is they did a good job, and they took it out of the hands of both candidates and the media specific. Should we go back to something like that? Where
Absolutely. Yeah, this shouldn't be something that's negotiated. Like, here are the rules, right? And that's the end of it. And Trump, I think it would be a good idea to have his mic muted again, because Kamala Harris, remember her debate with Mike Pence, her big line was, "Excuse me, I'm speaking. I'm speaking."
Right.
So if you can't cut her off, that line goes away. But you're right about the media. Boy, I mean, we saw today, for example, the Washington Post actually put out a story saying that Doug Emhoff, the husband of Kamala Harris, is the modern day sex symbol. Quote, "Move over, Ryan Gosling."
Now, shout out to the women who are in the chat. If there's any women in here, I see Ann in the building. If you guys agree with that comment, ladies, give me a thumbs up. If you guys don't agree with that comment, give me a thumbs down or some clown faces in the chat.
Unquote. If you just want a little flavor of what we're saying.
Wow. I mean, you could say a lot of things about it, but I
He
never
impregnated
thought
the nanny, David.
Yeah,
Full Schwarzenegger.
yeah. Oh, yeah.
Come on.
Yeah. So that makes him a star in their eyes.
I have no words. I'm supposed to come on here and talk. I don't even.
Mark, one of the problems that Trump is going to face, he could make charges and make statements about Joe Biden, even when he did with Hillary Clinton, that he may not be able to get away with and deal with Kamala. She's made victimhood a part of her political life for her entire political life. It's been one of the reasons a lot of people said she succeeded. If he tries anything that, she's going to cry victimhood that, is either race-based or misogynistic or whatever. He's got to be careful here in the debate.
Yeah, I think he knows that. He was careful with a very feeble Joe Biden in the last debate. Tulsi Gabbard wiped out Kamala in a debate. She's helping him. If Kamala Harris was smart, she would negotiate to get the mic muted when she's on. That would probably be the best thing for her.
Right.
That's funny and true. You know what I'm saying? Now, I want you guys to check out this NBC opinion piece. You're going to laugh when you see the title. This is where we are. You guys see it? Wishy-washy. Felon Trump petrified to debate Vice President Kamala Harris. That's what MSNBC is saying. Oh, man. So now here it says Donald Trump has floated skipping the first presidential debate between himself and Vice President Kamala Harris. Is panic hitting the Trump campaign? Yeah, I don't think so. I don't think so, but okay. So next we got an article from BBC. And this article from BBC is about the hot mic issue. Okay. Shout out to everybody that's watching. I appreciate you guys. If you all haven't smashed that like button yet, please take a moment and smash that like button. Also, if you guys haven't hit the bell, please take a moment, hit that bell. And also, please share the stream to your social media. I got to agree with Patrick. Shout out to you, bro. Shout out to Mike. What's good with it, bro? Patrick says, I think they're looking for a way out. Yeah, I do too. I agree. Trump and Harris spar over muting debate microphones. Okay. Let's see what they got here.
I think it's disgraceful.
All right. So, yeah, we actually, believe it or not, we listened to this little clip a little bit earlier, but we'll listen to it again.
And I think ABC is a disgrace. I think having Donna Brazile sitting on that panel, and she's the one that gave the answers and the questions to Hillary Clinton before a debate. I think ABC should be shut out. I'd much rather do it on NBC. I'd much rather do it on CBS, frankly. I think CBS is very unfair, but the best of the group. And certainly I'd do it on Fox. I'd even do it on CNN. I thought CNN treated us very fairly the last time. I think Jake Tapper was very fair and Dana Bash was very fair. We agreed to the same rules. I don't know. It doesn't matter to me. I'd rather have it probably on, but the agreement was that it would be the same as it was last time. In that case, it was muted. I didn't like it the last time, but it worked out fine.
Now, if they had played the full clip, he said it worked out fine. Just ask Joe Biden. You know what I'm saying? Oh, man. So now here it says the Donald Trump and Kamala Harris campaigns are sparring over whether to mute one of the microphones when it is the other person's turn to speak during the pair's scheduled debate next month. Now, let me ask you guys this question. Do you all think that this matters? If this matters a lot, give me a thumbs up in the chat. If it doesn't matter, you don't think that is that big of a deal, give me a thumbs down. Who do you think this would give an advantage to? Who do you guys think that this would give an advantage to? The Harris campaign said in a statement to BBC's U.S. partner, CBS News, that it wanted both candidates' microphones to be live throughout the full broadcast. The Trump campaign reportedly wants the ABC debate scheduled for 10th September to be governed by the same rules agreed when Joe Biden was the Democratic candidate. That would mean the microphones being muted. The apparent impasse comes as the former president questioned the impartiality of the network and signaled he might even skip the debate. Before President Joe Biden stepped down as the Democratic Party nominee, his campaign agreed with Trump's campaign to participate in two debates, one previously held in June on CNN and one to air on ABC this November. The Biden campaign negotiated the rules for the debate and agreed that the microphone would be muted when a candidate wasn't speaking. The Trump campaign agreed to the rule, which was enforced during the June CNN debate. But now, with just 15 days until the ABC News debate in Philadelphia is scheduled to air, Harris's campaign wants the microphones to be hot, meaning they will never be turned off for the duration of the debate. So now what this is revealing here is that it's Kamala Harris's team that wants to change the rules of the debate from their original format. But if you guys look at the headlines and if you look at the media, they're trying to pose it like it's Trump. There's a lot of weird manipulation tactics going on. Wouldn't you guys say? A lot of weird manipulation tactics. This would allow the two candidates to interrupt and speak over each other on a debate stage. The vice president is ready to deal with Trump's constant lies and interruptions in real time. Trump should stop hiding behind the mute button. Harris campaign senior communications advisor Brian Fallon said in a statement. Now, how is he hiding behind a mute button? How is he hiding behind a mute button? You know what I'm saying? Trump, meanwhile, told reporters on Monday that he'd rather have the microphones on during the debate, but said it worked out fine when they were muted on stage with Mr. Biden. We agreed to the same rules, same specifications, and I think that's probably what it should be. But they're trying to change it, he said. The truth is they're trying to get out of it because she doesn't want to debate. She's not a good debater. Trump's campaign, in a statement to Politico, reiterated the former president's accusations that Ms. Harris was looking for a way to get out of the debate. Now, let me ask you guys this. Do you all think that? If you all think that Kamala Harris is trying to get out of the debate, give me a thumbs up. If you guys don't think that she's trying to get out of the debate, give me a thumbs down. Enough with the games. We accepted the ABC debate under the exact same terms as the CNN debate, senior Trump advisor Jason Miller told Politico. The Harris camp, after having already agreed to the CNN rules, asked for a seated debate with notes and opening statements. We said no changes and agreed upon the rules. A Harris campaign official who was asked about the Trump campaign's claims said they were 100% false, according to CBS News. On Trump's Truth Social platform on Sunday, he questioned whether the ABC News journalist moderating the debate would give the questions to the Harris campaign ahead of time. Why would I do a debate against Kamala Harris on that network, he wrote. This is not the first time the former president has suggested that he could back out of a debate. Earlier this month, Trump said he would only debate Ms. Harris if the debate was hosted by Fox News. He reversed course several days later. Meanwhile, as the 5th of November election nears, Harris' campaign said it has raised $540 million since Biden stepped down, the Associated Press reports. Harris saw record-breaking fundraiser numbers in the aftermath of Mr. Biden dropping out of the race. The Trump campaign, on the other hand, has raised $138.7 million in July and has $327 million on cash in hand. Okay. So that's interesting. That is interesting. We got another article from Benzinga. Okay, we're going to take a look at this real quick. Trump-Harris debate could be derailed, okay, due to hot mic dispute. I think my whole life I've been preparing. So that's Trump. He's been waiting for it all in his life. The upcoming U.S. presidential debate has become a battleground with Donald Trump and Kamala Harris teams at odds over the use of open mics. Trump has threatened to withdraw from the event, accusing ABC of network bias, according to a Reuters report. Now, let me ask you guys this. Does ABC have network bias? And if they do have network bias, who is it towards? Let me know what you guys think. ABC network biased? Are these networks biased? Let me know what you guys think about the network bias. Trump, in his third presidential run, hinted at his non-participation in the ABC network-hosted debate via social media post on Sunday. He questioned the network's impartiality, writing, "Why would I do the debate against Kamala Harris on that network?" On Monday, Harris's spokesperson, Brian Fallon, expressed the vice president's campaign's desire for the candidates' microphones to remain on through the event. This contrasts with the previous presidential debates where the mics were muted when the other candidates were speaking. Fallon urged Trump to stop hiding behind the mute button. Now, if you ask me, all this is them doing is they're just trying to trap Trump into like some type of argument viral type situation where Kamala Harris can get some clips to go viral. Because honestly, however they had a microphone shouldn't matter. If you've got good policies, if you've got answers, if you've got logic, reason, regardless of how your mic is operating, the results of the debate should turn out the same. So now here it says, in response, Trump's campaign senior advisor, Jason Miller, stated that they had agreed to the same terms as CNN's June debate, which included muted microphones. He rejected any changes to the agreed upon rules. However, Trump later expressed his preference for his microphone to be kept on, showing his distaste for the mute option used in the last debate. So now, again, mind you, but at the same time, they keep telling him stop hiding behind the mute button. But clearly he don't like the mute button, apparently. Like it's almost like we're at this point now where the media, they're not even really trying to make sense. Basically, what the situation is that we'll just say whatever it is that we want to say, and that's just it. If y'all try to make some sense out of it, we're gonna have people coming after you. I'm not spending a lot of time on it. I think my whole life I've been preparing for a debate, Trump said, according to the report. You can't cram knowledge into your head for 30 years of knowledge in 1 week. So there's little debate prep, but I've always done it more or less the same way. The ABC network has yet commented on these developments. Okay. So now they say why it matters. The September 10th debate between Vice President Harris and Republican candidate Trump is seen as a critical event. However, Trump's recent social media post cast doubt on his participation, citing perceived bias from the ABC network owned by Walt Disney Company. Well, here's a better question. What doesn't Walt Disney own? Is there anything that Walt Disney doesn't own? Don't they have a little bit of stake in ESPN and a bunch of different channels? A recent Rasmussen poll, which may be an outlier, showed Trump leading Harris by 3 points, though Harris has led in most polls. The poll was conducted before significant political events, including the Democratic National Convention and Robert Kennedy Jr.'s campaign suspension. Meanwhile, Harris held a slight edge in betting odds, but the race remained close, with Trump slightly ahead in some prediction markets. Harris has also shown leads in key swing state polls. Okay. So, yeah, there's that. So, next, we're going to take a look at this little news clip here. And of course, it's a news clip from MSNBC. And they're asking the question now, quote unquote, will the debate actually happen? I think it will. What do you guys think?
There's a lot of debate around the next presidential debate on September 10th, the first between Donald Trump and VP Kamala Harris. Harris wants the rules changed to keep the mics hot for the duration of the debate. And though Trump says the rules don't matter to him, he does also keep signaling that he doesn't want to face off with her.
Do you still plan to? I think that's interesting that they're getting that he doesn't want to face off with her. Let me ask you guys this. Since we've been watching this, has anybody else gotten signals that Trump doesn't want to face off with her? If you've gotten those signals, give me a thumbs up. If you guys have not gotten those signals, give me a thumbs down. I've gotten the signals that he's not really into the games that are being played by the campaign managers, and he wants the rules of the debate to remain consistent. But that's literally the only thing that I've gotten. I didn't get any of this, what they're talking about here.
Participate in the ABC debate? Well, I watched this weekend, and it's the worst of all networks. George Stephanopoulos and all of the different people, and the worst.
Joining us now, NBC News White House correspondent Mike Memoli, NBC News correspondent Shaquille Brewster in Detroit, Michigan, where former President Trump will be later today, and NBC News correspondent Vaughn Hilliard. So, Mike, is the debate going to happen?
I think so, Katie, but I think, this debate over debates tells you a few things about where we are in this campaign. First, it tells you about the difference at the top of the ticket on the Democratic side, because remember, it was the Biden campaign that originally successfully dictated the terms of these two debates when they proposed them in May. First, having no audience, and second, having a mute button that the candidates wouldn't be speaking when the other candidate was talking. Well, in retrospect, I think many Biden advisors would tell you they would have preferred to have that freewheeling exchange after all, that the president's poor performance may have been in part because he would have benefited from having a more lively exchange with Donald Trump. Kamala Harris, the vice president, of course, her team thinks that this is to their advantage, that the more Donald Trump is heard from, the better it is for them. They think that
I don't think that that's the case. I don't think that that's the case at all. There's a lot of gaslighting going on.
he has the potential to step in it, perhaps, by continuing the insults that he's been waging in interviews and in campaign events, but before a much bigger national audience, including a lot of swing voters. So you see Brian Fallon, a spokesperson for the Harris campaign, saying in a statement that Donald Trump shouldn't be hiding behind the mute button. We've seen since then in a tweet from Fallon that based on Trump's comments today, they think this is all a done deal, that this is now set, Trump indicating that he would be open to that, not having that mute button anymore. Now, the Trump campaign, for its part, is accusing Harris of imposing her own wishes for new rules, including to be seated, to have opening statements, all part of a pattern, they say, of her not agreeing to take tough questions in interviews. But you just saw Fallon's statement there. They think that this is a go at this point.
I think it's interesting that Fallon's on the team now. Fallon obviously has a lot of experience with Donald Trump. He was part of Hillary Clinton's team in 2016. And it's interesting because Kamala Harris doesn't have all that much experience with Donald Trump. I read that the only time she would ever been in the same room as him was during one of the State of the Unions. Von Hilliard, how does the campaign feel? The Trump campaign feel about having the mics on? And I ask about that because Donald Trump seems to have a different feeling about it than his campaign does. Listen to what he told our embed, Jake Traylor.
Would you want the microphones muted in the debate whenever you're not speaking?
We agreed to the same rules. I don't know. It doesn't matter to me. I'd rather have it probably on, but the agreement was that it would be the same as it was last time. In that case, it was muted. The truth is they're trying to get out of it because she doesn't want to debate. She's not a good debater. She's not a smart person. She doesn't want to debate.
Oh, man, that's crazy, man. If y'all agree with Trump, give me a thumbs up. If y'all disagree, give me a thumbs down.
Trump would say he's a master at debating. How does the campaign feel?
In that he doesn't really need to prepare much. He also told our own Jake Traylor here. For the campaign, look, they started off the morning, as Mike noted, they started off the morning suggesting that the Harris campaign was wanting to change the rules from what was initially agreed upon by the two camps. And of course, usually when the Presidential Debate Commission is the one overseeing this, there's really not much room for actually back and forth here. But for the Trump campaign, right, it was the Harris team that was trying to suggest Susie Wiles, Chris LaCivita. They were scared to have their man mic'd up and not muted because the public would hear him interjecting or saying statements like he did when he was debating Hillary Clinton.
It's crazy when you don't have enough confidence in your candidate to allow them autonomy to be able to just go free and do what they need to do. That's what the issue is here. And that's the reason why you see them trying to do the projection so hard. The issue here is that they know that they have to have some type of back channel way to be able to help Kamala Harris if she ends up needing it, which she more than likely will. And they're not able to do that if she's out there on her own. You know what I'm saying?
Clinton that are off-putting or frankly offensive. And the question here is, could Kamala Harris more effectively than Joe Biden sort of poke Donald Trump? Because we know that he is reactive. His own team, who worked at the White House with him, several former administration members have talked about he's easily provoked and you're able to get him rattled. And so the question is, would Kamala Harris try to use that to his advantage? And right now, the Trump team wants to keep the rules in place as they are.
Shaq, so what are you expecting a little bit later today when Donald Trump heads out to Michigan? He's been focusing a lot lately beyond the whether or he will not debate on veterans. Today, he was at Arlington National Cemetery honoring vets and the fallen from Afghanistan.
Right. Yeah. And earlier today, actually, Katie, he wrapped up his remarks just about 45 minutes ago to continue that conversation you were just having. We did hear the former president address the debate quickly on stage, talking about an argument, suggesting he wouldn't make an argument because he wants to save that for the debate stage. So that at least shines some light into that thinking, his thinking, at least when he was on stage earlier today. But you really saw him kind of struggle a little bit between trying to lean in and kind of do his normal political speech in front of this nonpartisan group with many uniformed service members in that crowd, and also tried to kind of take that more solemn tone and honor and acknowledge those 13 service members who were lost in Afghanistan just 3 years ago. And you heard him do a little bit of both. To that last point, he not only used it as a line of attack against Vice President Harris and President Biden, saying that they just aren't strong enough as leaders, but he took it a little bit further and suggested that if he is president, there's some action that he would take, going back to that attack that we saw 3 years ago. Just listen to a quick bite of that moment.
We'll get the resignations of every single senior official who touched the Afghanistan calamity to be on my desk at noon
Shout out
on
to Brooklyn Queen. What's
Inauguration
good with
Day.
Brooklyn
You know,
Queen?
you have to fire people. Yeah.
Make sure y'all throw some like enforcers in the chat for Brooklyn Queen. I appreciate it. And also, real quick, speaking of like enforcers, if you guys haven't smashed the like button yet, please take a moment, bang on that like button. All right. We got 31 people watching and we got 27 likes. If we can get everybody to smash that like button and get us to 50, that'd be great. Also, if you guys have not shared, please take a moment, share. If you're not part of the Discord, also take a moment, join the Discord, hit that link that's pinned in the chat.
You have to fire people when they do a bad job. We never fire anybody. You got to fire them. Like on The Apprentice, you fired, you did a lousy job.
There was also some policy points that were tucked into his speech. He proposed a space National Guard, obviously an expansion of the Space Force that he created as president. And he also talked about wanting more from NATO countries. Instead of that 2% of spending in their military budgets, he says that as president, he would push for 3%, Katie.
What do you guys think about that? I don't disagree that NATO in those countries should be paying more than they pay. They get a lot of stuff for free. Would you guys agree? Like they get a lot of stuff for free. And we end up having to pay for it. And we don't get a return from it. At least we don't at this level. We don't see it. You know what I'm saying? Shout out to Corey here, bro. I got the Discord link for you. Shout out to Ricky. What's good with it? If that Discord link that you just hit don't work, hit this one. This one should. All right. We're going to check this out. It's just crazy to me that in today's world, people are getting shamed for saying, hey, well, let's see what Kamala Harris's policies are about. And you got literally everybody trying to shout you down. It's unrealistic. It's unbelievable. Who moves like that? You know what I'm saying? Where's the diversity of thought at? The freedom of autonomy. You know?
Both the Harris and Trump campaigns are gearing up to head back out on the campaign trail this week, making stops in those crucial swing states. NBC News senior White House correspondent Gabe Gutierrez has more.
This morning, with just 71 days until the election, the presidential campaign is ramping up. Early voting starts next month in at least 6 states, and the Harris campaign is now announcing a bus tour this week to battleground Georgia, while the Trump campaign, fresh off an endorsement from third-party candidate Robert F. Kennedy Jr.,
I was surprised to discover that we are aligned on many key issues.
is planning to head this week to critical swing states, Michigan, Wisconsin, and Pennsylvania.
We're going to defeat Comrade Kamala Harris, and we're going to win back our beautiful White House.
Harris's campaign and its allies say they've raised a record $540 million since President Biden dropped out a month ago. For its part, the Trump campaign said—
Now, here goes the question. Is Kamala Harris, is she that inspiring that they raised a record $540 billion? That's $500 million. That's $500 million. How did they get all that money so quick? Right. That's basically it. Shout out to Patrick. Patrick said, shut up, Rob. Just trust what they tell you and stop raising damn questions. We're trying to get her to win. Right. That's what it is. That's exactly what it is. You know what I'm saying?
That we are aligned on many key issues.
Is planning to head this week to critical swing states, Michigan, Wisconsin, and Pennsylvania.
We're going to defeat Comrade Kamala Harris, and we're going to win back our beautiful White House.
Harris's campaign and its allies say they've raised a record $540 million since President Biden dropped out a month ago. For its part, the Trump campaign says it raked in almost $139 million last month. Now, with the Democratic National Convention behind her, there is mounting pressure on Vice President Harris to hold a formal press conference or a major sit-down interview. While on Meet the Press, Trump's—
So, again, this is MSNBC. They're talking about the pressure that's on her to go and talk to the media. This is the liberal media saying this stuff. You guys heard that, right?
since President Biden dropped out a month ago. For its part, the Trump campaign says it raked in almost $139 million last month. Now, with the Democratic National Convention behind her, there is mounting pressure on Vice President Harris to hold a formal press conference or a major sit-down interview. While on Meet the Press, Trump's VP pick, Senator J.D. Vance, telling NBC's Kristen Welker his running mate would not impose a federal ban on abortion.
So he would veto a federal abortion ban.
I think he would. He said that explicitly that he would.
And even as Trump cast doubts on election results,
Do you have faith the 2024 election will be free and fair?
I do, Kristen. I do think it's going to be free and fair. We're going to do everything that we can to make sure that happens.
That was NBC's Gabe Gutierrez reporting. And joining us now, we have White House correspondent for Politico and co-author of The Playbook, Eugene Daniels, special correspondent at Vanity Fair and host of the Fast Politics podcast, Molly Jong Fast, and author of 2 recent New York Times bestsellers, Evil Geniuses, The Unmaking of America, and Fantasyland, How America Went Haywire. Kurt Anderson. Kurt is with us as well. Thanks to you all for being with us for this hour. Eugene, you got new reporting this morning in The Playbook about how the Harris and Trump campaigns have hit an impasse over the rules of the upcoming debate. And with the Chicago convention behind us, all eyes are turning towards September 10th.
Now, let me ask y'all this. Is anybody familiar with this dude right here? Y'all familiar with this dude with the blouse on? Shout out to Brooklyn Queen. If y'all familiar with this dude with the blouse, somebody let me know who he is. I don't know who he is. He ain't one of my people. If he's one of your people, let us know who he is.
Philadelphia, the highly anticipated showdown between Harris and Trump, but there are some snacks. Tell us more.
Yeah, whether it's a speed bump or an impasse or a wall that they've hit, they're kind of stalled at this one issue, which is microphones, whether or not the microphones will be muted or unmuted, right? You can remember, for those who watched the CNN debate, that they had the mics muted during the other person speaking. That was something that the then Biden campaign really wanted. The Harris campaign doesn't want that. And so you have this really interesting dynamic where the Trump folks are actually the ones advocating for the rules as outlined by the Biden campaign, which would include the muted mics. And the Harris campaign, they want the mics unmuted. They believe that he will likely call her name or say something untoward, that he has, we've seen reporting behind closed doors of the things that he's saying to folks. I think they want that out there. They want the American people to see him do and say those things. Right?
Now, this is interesting, right? Because he is just kind of out there. He does just do and say things. he up here dressed like how they were dressed on Django.
Right. It's really interesting. I talked to both Jason Miller at the Trump campaign and Brian Fallon at the Harris campaign, and they're both blaming the other one of the folks for this impasse. But at the end of the day, the negotiations with the Biden campaign no longer stand. Right. The Harris folks, when they said that they would do this debate, it was always under the fact that.
Shout out to Shun C, the artist formerly known as Jordan Peele. Man, that's crazy. That's crazy right there.
Negotiations on the smaller things, location, moderators, all of that, muted mic would happen at some point. But the Trump folks are saying, we want CNN or bust. However, former President Trump himself, when he talked about this Fox News debate that's been proposed, he wants an audience, which is the exact opposite of what happened in the rules of the CNN debate.
Yeah, it's certainly interesting how the Biden team proposed the muted microphone, but ended up working to Trump's benefit because it kind of kept him quiet and it helped him be at least appearing to look disciplined there on air. So, Molly, let's get your take on this.
So again, the media is telling on themselves. You guys see the media telling on themselves? So as you're listening to this, who's really the people that want to manipulate the rules of the debate? What it seems like is Trump don't care. He's just really more about it being fair for him or not. I don't think he's really big on how the debate takes place with the mics on or off. I think he just wherever he's debating at, he just wants a moderator that's going to be fair. That's what I think his major concern is. If you ask me, the reason why this certain concern has come up for the Harris administration or the Harris campaign is because now they know this is really gonna be Kamala Harris being forced to perform on her own, and she might not be able to do it. She might get exposed. Let me ask you guys this question. Do you guys think that Kamala Harris will get exposed in this debate against Trump? If you guys think so, give me a thumbs up. If you guys think not, give me a thumbs down.
Certainly, Trump, also posted on Truth Social last night, calling out ABC, accusing them of being biased. We know he's proposed other debates, including on Fox. The Harris campaign has said no to that. They said, look, we're going to have this one on September 1st, and then September 10th, and then we'll go from there. It also seems that there's some reluctance in Trump world for Trump to debate Harris. He has had trouble standing up to strong, smart women before. Also, she's a prosecutor. She's good at this.
So now I want do you guys see how he used the Elizabeth Warren talking point? They get a list of these talking points, and then they just cycle and repeat these talking points until people start to believe him. You see, he literally used the exact same talking point as Elizabeth Warren. He literally just did that. Shout out to everybody watching, man. I appreciate you guys. If y'all haven't hit the like button yet, please take a moment and hit that like button. Also, if you guys haven't shared, please take a moment and share. You guys are doing great. We got 31 people watching, and we got 27 likes. If everybody can bang on that like button and get us to 50, that would be wonderful.
That's been proposed. He wants an audience, which is the exact opposite of what happened in the rules of the CNN debate.
Yeah, it's certainly interesting how the Biden team proposed the muted microphone, but ended up working to Trump's benefit because it kind of kept him quiet and it helped him be at least appearing to look disciplined there on air. So Molly, let's get your take on this. Certainly Trump, also posted on Truth Social last night, calling out ABC, accusing them of being biased. We know he's proposed other debates, including on Fox. The Harris campaign has said no to that. They said, look, we're going to have this one on September 1st, and then September 10th, and then we'll go from there. It also seems that there's some reluctance in Trump world for Trump to debate Harris. He has had trouble standing up to strong, smart women before.
Who? When did he even have a beef with strong, smart women? By that logic, I would say that strong, smart women are Tulsi Gabbard or are Kamala Harris's kryptonite, because Tulsi Gabbard, she came with the strong, smart woman stuff and shut Kamala Harris all the way down. So honestly, I've never seen Trump get shut down like how Kamala Harris got shut down by Tulsi Gabbard. So I would actually say that Kamala Harris is the one that has the weakness of being challenged by a strong woman. A strong, confident woman, I think is Kamala Harris's kryptonite. If Kamala Harris was a strong, confident woman, she wouldn't be able to shut up in front of the cameras. Right? But this is the problem. Everybody's complaining that she's not saying enough to the media and in front of the cameras, right?
Also, she's a prosecutor. She's good at this. And at least for now, his efforts to attack her have been faltering. Witness comrade Kamala.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point, John. And I think, look, you see here that tends to be that the candidate that's a little bit behind wants the debate, right? Think about in the Republican primary contest, agree. Trump didn't debate.
Shout out to Win Loser Rug. Win Loser Rug said, bro, the Dems are so zealous and hell-bent on denying Trump another term. They've taken to the ends justifies the means stance. Yeah, I agree 100%, bro. They've gone to like some clear way out there type stuff. You know what I'm saying?
Anyone, because he didn't want to elevate them, right? He didn't need it. So in this one, I think Trump is a little conflicted, right? Because he could use a debate to reset or at least his thinking is that he could use the debate to reset the campaign. But the problem, I think, for Trump is that we see all throughout Harris's career, she comes from the world of being a sex crimes prosecutor. So she has a lot of experience prosecuting. And I think also you'll remember that she was she was attorney general, she was a senator. And when she was a senator, she was famous for sort of nailing these members of the Trump administration, right, with questions. And she has been really quite good at that. So if you're Trump, you're very conflicted, right, because you want to reset the campaign and you think this could help you, but you also know that this is a very high stakes gamble. So I think we'll see. Look, she's very smart not to say yes to a Fox debate, because obviously Fox, has many.
Now, let me ask you guys this. How is it that she's allowed to say absolutely not to a Fox debate, and that's perfectly okay, but Trump has to go to one of the other ones? Trump has to do his debates on the liberal ones, and that the liberals get to just automatically say no to going on Fox. Why is that even an option? How is that fair? I don't understand that.
Any problems and still so I think that is not unusual, but for the debate that they've agreed, I think it's a win-win for her. But if he doesn't do it, I think that also works.
Yeah, so Kurt, we'll turn to your wild RFK Jr. story in just a moment, but let's first just get you in on this. I mean, to Molly's point, the incentive for Trump to do this debate is he's currently losing. I mean, it is very close, but he is down a little, and the trend lines are with Harris right now, so that'd be reason to try to change momentum. But also, I just have to think that if he were to duck this debate, he'd be called a coward by so many, and it just seems that's something that Donald Trump just couldn't stand.
I couldn't agree with you more. It seems to me this is, a series of negotiations about how to do.
Do you guys notice that when it comes to them talking about Trump, most of the content on the news in the mainstream media is like personality critiques? They're all like trying to mini psychoanalyze him. Do you notice that? It's just weird.
And how to do best. And if as Eugene said, if it's all about whether the mics are muted when the speaker isn't speaking, I can't imagine that would be a deal breaker. No, and I agree with you. He is, I am tough. I am strong.
Real quick, shout out to Shun C. Make sure you guys show Shun C some love with the $20 super chat. Definitely appreciate you funding the organization.
How do you think that we fund this organization, huh? We're not exactly the March of Dimes.
The money, y'all. There's poor people around. I'm rich, bitch.
Shun C says, Rob, I appreciate all of your hard work with bringing us truth and knowledge. I appreciate it. Hopefully you guys enjoy it. Hopefully you guys get something out of it. You know what I'm saying? I'm gonna just keep trying to make it better, more accurate, more frequent, higher quality. Same thing I've been doing since I started.
Wrong. I'm not going to let this woman show who's tougher. I can't imagine he would accept that. And even, of course, he would invent ways around that. Oh, they're whatever. It's ABC is fake news. I can't imagine that would go down with even, some of his possible voters.
Yeah, he'll make excuses, I would think, as to how he might do, but it's hard to imagine him not showing up that day.
Yeah, so they cut that nonsense off real quick. That's hilarious. That's what they worried about with the mics. They worried about getting cut off and being in the middle of some nonsense. So now we got this video here is a little bit more on the lengthy side. And it's a video that CNN recently put out, and they're questioning whether the ABC debate will happen as Kamala Harris's team is pressing for the quote unquote rule changes. All right. So I think that's what people need to make sure that they concentrate on, is that they understand that the Harris team is going for the rule changes. Okay. See, if you can look up here in the top left-hand corner, it says Trump questions whether ABC debate will happen as Harris team presses for rule change. Because I bet you at some point they'll try to say that it was Trump who was pressing for the rule change. So just I'm saying, keep track of all that on a chronological level.
The upcoming debate. The former president casting doubt about whether he will, in fact, debate Vice President Harris. That is scheduled to take place on September 10th.
Do you still plan to participate in the ABC debate?
Well, I watched this weekend, and it's the worst of all networks. When I looked at the hostility of that, I said, why am I doing it? Let's do it with another network. I think ABC should be shut out.
And Trump was then later on still using the word if. Obviously, this is a debate that his campaign has already agreed to.
They flew almost 1 million people in over the border. They flew. That stops all of their. I shouldn't say this, because if there is a debate, it would be nice to surprise you with that one.
If there is a debate, you heard that, the crucial word there. Now, Harris's team, when it comes to this debate, which is, as I said, scheduled,
It's wild how they cherry picking. Isn't that crazy? If you guys think that is wild how they cherry picking, give me a thumbs up. If you guys don't think that is wild how they cherry picking, give me a thumbs down. Now, let me ask you guys this question. How do you all think that the voters would react if there was no debate for any of this? If there's no debate, you think that people are going to be happy about that?
they're now asking that the microphones be on throughout the debate, which is a change from the rules that the campaigns had agreed to and from the rules of the CNN Biden-Trump debate. And Trump's campaign is saying no. They want to stick with the agreed upon rules on this debate that may or may not happen. But Trump himself seems to be saying, yes, open up the mics.
I don't know. It doesn't matter to me. I'd rather have it probably on, but the agreement was that it would be the same as it was last time.
All right. Now, that's true. But the Harris campaign is now open to it changing. So they're trolling Trump. Here's the campaign communications director.
So you see what she said? They're trolling Trump. So that's all this is trolling.
If there is a debate, you heard that, the crucial word there. Now, Harris's team, when it comes to this debate, which is, as I said, scheduled, they are now asking that the microphones be on throughout the debate, which is a change from the rules that the campaigns had agreed to and from the rules of the CNN Biden-Trump debate. And Trump's campaign is saying no. They want to stick with the agreed upon rules on this debate that may or may not happen. But Trump himself seems to be saying, yes, open up the mics.
I don't know. It doesn't matter to me. I'd rather have it probably on. But the agreement was that it would be the same as it was last time.
All right. Now, that's true. But the Harris campaign is now open to it changing. So they're trolling Trump. Here's the campaign communications director.
So you guys heard what she said. I'm just saying, just as long as we clear, as long as y'all heard her say, they moved it, and they're doing that in response to quote unquote trolling Trump. So now we got trolling coming into play.
For the Harris campaign.
unless Donald Trump allows his handlers to overrule him. We'll have a fulsome debate between the two candidates with live microphones.
And those words coming after a statement from the Harris campaign, which said, our understanding is that Trump's handlers prefer the muted microphone because they don't think their candidate can act presidential for 90 minutes on his own. Just to be clear, obviously using the word handlers is obviously just purely intended to get under his skin. And there's a reason why open mics have, well, actually, you would think that at times they could have gone badly for Trump. They haven't, though. These moments that I'm about to play for you in the past have not done badly for him. Things may, though, have changed. Here's what happens when the mics weren't muted.
Donald supported the invasion of Iraq.
Wrong.
That is absolutely
Wrong.
proved over and over again.
Wrong.
My Social Security payroll contribution will go up, as will Donald's, assuming he can't.
Oh, yeah, I forgot about this strong woman, his weakness that he beat to become president. I forgot all about that. You remember when they said that? They said that his weakness is debating strong women. I forgot that he actually beat a strong woman to become the president. I forgot about that. I literally actually did. Like, that's just very interesting.
Can't figure out how to get out of it. But what we want to do is to replenish the Social
Such a nasty
Security Trust Fund.
Vote and let your senators know how strongly you feel. Vote now. Make sure you, in fact, let people know you're a senator. I'm not going to answer the question because the question is radical left. Will you shut up, man?
All right, that's what has happened in the past when the mics have been open. Steve Tornado is out front in St. Petersburg, Florida. He's covering
we gotta go back to Joe Biden. Hey man, will you shut up, man?
Security payroll contribution will go up, as will Donald's, assuming he can't figure out how to get out of it. But what we want to do is to replenish the Social Security Trust Fund.
Vote and let your senators know how strongly you feel. Vote now.
He said that Hillary Clinton was such a. He said you. He said you're nasty.
To overrule him. We'll have a fulsome debate between the two candidates with live microphones.
And those words coming after a statement from the Harris campaign, which said, our understanding is that Trump's handlers prefer the muted microphone because they don't think their candidate can act presidential for 90 minutes on his own. Just to be clear, obviously using the word handlers is obviously just purely intended to get under his skin. And there's a reason why open mics have, well, actually, you would think that at times they could have gone badly for Trump. They haven't, though. These moments that I'm about to play for you in the past have not done badly for him. Things may, though, have changed. Here's what happens when the mics weren't muted.
Donald supported the invasion of Iraq.
Wrong.
That is absolutely
Wrong.
proved over and over again.
Wrong.
My Social Security payroll contribution will go up, as will Donald's, assuming he can't figure out how to get out of it. But what we want to do is to replenish the Social Security Trust Fund.
Man, that's hilarious. That's hilarious, man.
Vote and let your senators know how strongly you feel. Vote now. Make sure you, in fact, let people know you're a senator. I'm not going to answer the question because the question is radical left. Will you shut up, man?
Will you shut up, man? Biden just gave up. He just gave up, just like he did this time. Biden gave up last time, just like he gave up this time. He said, "Oh, would you shut up, man?" That's probably what he did when they kept bothering him about dropping out of the election. He probably be like, "Stop! Would you stop bothering me about it already? I already stepped down. Now leave me alone."
That's what has happened in the past when the mics have been open. Steve Tornado is out front in St. Petersburg, Florida. He's covering the Trump campaign, and you've got new details tonight, Steve. I know Trump has, hinted there that he could drop out of the debate. You are reporting that he's aggressively ramping up his campaign schedule, which, as opposed to, let's just say, preparing for the debate. And I know you've been talking to your sources tonight. What are you learning?
Oh, yeah. Shout out to
Aaron, this debate over debates is taking place in the context.
Hey, that's hilarious. You are such a nasty woman. That's hilarious. That would be great. Shout out to Patrick. Make sure y'all show Patrick some love. Throw some flames, some radiation emojis, and some ducks in the chat for Patrick funding the organization.
How do you think that we fund this organization, huh? We're not exactly the march of dimes.
Cash rules everything around me. Green, get the money. Dollar bill, yo.
I can't believe y'all don't remember that game Pit Fighter, man. Y'all don't remember that game Pit Fighter? Shout out to Patrick. Patrick says, Rob, with these dang commercials. Look, hold on. We got this is why we got the commercials.
How do you think that we fund this organization, huh? We're not exactly the march of dimes.
context of a race that Donald Trump is very much struggling to adapt to. He, in many ways, is still running a campaign against President Joe Biden. And we sort of saw some glimpses of that today. He was appearing at Arlington National Cemetery and in Michigan to mark the occasion of the 3rd anniversary of the attack in Afghanistan at the airport there that left 13 soldiers dead. And this is a point that was a real focus of his convention.
Man, that's hilarious. Such a nasty woman. He was so he was so disgusted by her too. Like he walked in on her doing some crazy. God, just look at you. Just a nasty woman, man. That's hilarious. You're nasty.
Last month, and there were some of the most emotional and affecting moments of that convention was when these Gold Star parents were on the stage talking about what it was like to go through that, what it was like that their children didn't come home, and really putting the blame on Joe Biden. The problem is Joe Biden is not the opponent anymore, and Donald Trump has had difficulty.
Shout out to AW1. Yeah, you played it on Sega. Yeah, I think they used to have it for Sega. I think they used to have it for Nintendo. I think they had it for Super Nintendo too. But yeah, Pit Fighter, that used to be my game though. I used to play that at the arcade all the time. That right there was like the first fighting game where they had blood in it.
He's shifting his focus from Joe Biden to Vice President Harris. Especially, he's trying to basically run the same campaign he ran against Biden against her. And today was another example of that. He's also tried to tie her to Biden's economy, to Biden's immigration policies, to Biden on inflation. So all these examples, however, are just further proof that he has not been able to find a way to, that so far has not yielded much results for him. And as we reported today, he is ramping up his schedule because his campaign is acknowledging for the first time really that they have failed to match the enthusiasm of Harris, and they're going to be more aggressive in combating that going forward.
Let me ask you guys this. How can it be said that Harris's campaign has any enthusiasm when she hasn't spoken to anybody? Like, I don't understand a lot of this stuff that they're coming up with. I don't understand where they're getting this stuff to come up with it from. Does it make any sense? It doesn't make any sense to me.
Aaron.
All right, Steve, thank you very much. And obviously, that's an important detail. Lulu Garcia-Navarro, I mean, obviously, anybody running against Kamala Harris would try to link her to the administration of which she is the VP. So fair game on inflation and the border. But to run the same campaign that he was running against Biden is sort of amazing. I mean, you would have thought that, at least to go with the way he's been in the past, he would be more quick-footed about adjusting it. But Steve's reporting shows no.
I mean, he is really struggling with trying to figure out how to define her. And the window is closing. I mean,
I don't know where they get this lady from. This lady, if you ask me, she's not a very good contributor. She kind of comes with a lot of nonsense and doesn't have any substantiation behind it. This is the individual that said Kamala Harris is visibly, clearly a black woman when they were discussing the comments about her heritage. She doesn't bring a lot to the show, if you ask me.
we have, I think, only 2 to 3 weeks before people start early voting in mid-September in some of these key states. We're really only trying to persuade only a tiny amount of people when you think of the Trump campaign and the Harris campaign. And so I think at this point, this debate was going to be crucial. It was the next test. And
shout out to AW1. AW1 said, yo, Rob, who did you play with on that game? There was, I only remember 2 of them. There was the one guy named was Ty, right? And then the other dude name was Buzz, like the white dude with the blue pants. And the other dude name was Ty, right? I think it was Ty, the one that used to do the cyclone kick. He the one that I would play with.
the fact that he is, saying he might not do it, under what circumstances will he do it, really shows that this is hers to lose at this point. I mean, if you think about them on the stage together, he is an almost 80-year-old man, and he is going to suffer from the same thing that Biden suffered with him. She is 20 years his junior. Yep. He looks like the past, and she looks like the future.
So, former Congressman Scott Taylor is with us as well, Republican congressman. What do you make, Scott, of his inability thus far to define her and to shift his strategy? I mean, we've all seen it. I don't know. Have you been as surprised as some of us have been about the kind of slowness with which he's...
Nah, I never played that game. I saw it, but I never played it. Shout out to AW1. AW1 said it was 3 of them. Yeah, it was the one with the blue pants and the yellow pants and the red pants. I can't think of the dude with the red's name. Yeah, she clueless. If y'all agree with Patrick that this lady is clueless, give me a thumbs up. If y'all disagree, give me a thumbs down. She clueless. This is what I'm saying. I don't know why they brought her on there. I don't know what she contributes.
You seem to adjust.
Aaron, it's great to be with you, of course, as always. Actually, no. I mean, I think the president and Republicans knew that when Kamala came out, when the VP came out and announced her campaign, she was going to get a massive amount and barrage of positive media. And that's exactly what's happened, of course. She was going to get a bump with the DNC because all the attention was going to be there. I think that we understood this. But in my opinion, and many other opinions, she's peaked. And I think the president understands that as well. I mean, listen, she's, as we've talked about many times and you've talked about, she's not here. She's not meeting with Aaron Burnett, right? She's not sitting down and speaking with you. And I think when moving forward, what are we, 36, 37 days now where she hasn't sat down and did any interview with anybody yet? That's a free pass. And quite frankly, it's an indictment on the media and journalism not to sit her down and talk to her. The American people deserve, they shouldn't have to settle. They deserve to hear from her. They deserve to.
We're on a liberal news media outlet. People keep saying that she's getting picked on, but she's not getting picked on. This is a legitimate critique. She hasn't said anything to anybody. You guys heard this guy right here on CNN just criticize her for not being accessible to the media and the public. You guys see that, right?
Thought that, at least to go with the way he's been in the past, he would be more quick-footed about adjusting it. But Steve's reporting shows no.
I mean, he is really struggling with trying to figure out how to define her. And the window is closing. I mean, we have, I think, only 2 to 3 weeks before people start early voting in mid-September in some of these key states. We're really only trying to persuade only a tiny amount of people when you think of the Trump campaign and the Harris campaign. And so I think at this point, this debate was going to be crucial. It was the next test. And the fact that he is, saying he might not do it, under what circumstances will he do it, really shows that this is hers to lose at this point. I mean, if you think about them on the stage together, he is an almost 80-year-old man, and he is going to suffer from the same thing that Biden suffered with him. She is 20 years his junior. Yep. He looks like the past, and she looks like the future.
So, former Congressman Scott Taylor is with us as well, Republican congressman. What do you make, Scott, of his inability thus far to define her and to shift his strategy? I mean, we've all seen it.
Now, let me ask you guys this. What do they mean when they say his inability to define her? For one, I didn't know it was his requirement that he had to define her, right? Coming from this political end of things, if a man tries to define a woman, that's sexism and chauvinism. So you wouldn't expect Trump to do that, right? But they're expecting him to. They're the ones that said that he needs to define her, categorize her, whatever, right? But where's the requirements to do that, though? Like, this is all very strange talk that's not really making a lot of sense.
I don't know. Have you been as surprised as some of us have been about the kind of slowness with which he seemed to adjust?
Aaron, it's great to be with you, of course, as always. Actually, no. I mean, I think the president and Republicans knew that when Kamala came out, when the VP came out and announced her campaign, she was going to get a massive amount and barrage of positive media. And that's exactly what's happened, of course. She was going to get a bump with the DNC because all the attention was going to be there. I think that we understood this. But in my opinion, and many other opinions, she's peaked. And I think the president understands that as well. I mean, listen, she's, as we've talked about many times and you've talked about, she's not here. She's not meeting with Aaron Burnett, right? She's not sitting down and speaking with you. And I think when moving forward, what are we, 36, 37 days now where she hasn't sat down and did any interview with anybody yet? That's a free pass. And quite frankly, it's an indictment on the media and journalism not to sit her down and talk to her. The American people deserve, they shouldn't have to settle. They deserve to hear from her. They deserve for her to answer tough questions, just like President Trump has done.
Right, but what happens, Congressman?
If you guys agree with what he just said, throw some flames in the chat. If you guys disagree with what he said, then give me a thumbs down. Shout out to MD Williams. What's good with it, bro? Shout out to Shaka. Shaka said, actually, I would expect Trump to do it as a chauvinist because he grabs him by the... In this case, he can't. Yeah, that's facts. But at the same time, though, you know what I'm saying? All I'm saying is that it's interesting that they expect him to do that, because then when he does that, then that's when they'll hit him with that chauvinism, or that's when they'll hit him with that misogyny. And it's like, you just sat here and expected me and told me to define you. And now that I defined you, you're saying that I'm a chauvinist, or you're saying that I'm a sexist, or, misogynist or whatever. You know what I'm saying? Like, this is ridiculous. This is ridiculous. This is where we're at in the world, man. Like, this is crazy.
Rose, former Democratic congressman, when Congressman Taylor's argument goes away on that one point, because it's going to go away. She's going to do an interview. She was supposed to do one by the end of the month. Now tonight they're saying they're going to schedule one by the end of the month. I mean, look, she should have done one already, but if she comes out and does it, then that's gone. Then okay, she's done the interview.
Look, my Republican friends remind me of what my 4-year-old looks like, blindfolded with, they're trying to hit the piñata at his birthday party, right? They're constantly swinging. One day it's about she's not doing an interview, which is ridiculous. The campaign's 30 days old and she's constantly out there, and she will, of course, do an interview very shortly. The next day it's about inflation, but then the number.
Right, I agree. Shout out to Shaka. Shaka says they can't define what a female is, but they expect him to define her, a what and a what. Right. If you guys agree with Shaka, throw some flames in the chat. If y'all disagree, give me some thumbs down and let me know what you disagree with. Right. I mean, that's exactly it. Like, these are literally questions of logic. And then if you ask questions like this, you have somebody like Plies like, Shaka, what you talking about down there in them comment sections? Shorty, what you talking about? You trying to use logic down there? You know you need to go ahead and get behind Kamala Harris as your president to vote. I don't know what's wrong with y'all online. Plies sitting up there sounding crazy. I don't know what's wrong with you. Like, seriously?
Numbers are looking far, far, far better. A smooth landing is obviously here. And so they move on from that. They're flailing. And the reason why they are is because there's one thing they do not want to talk about, and that is their actual agenda, their anti-freedom agenda that will have actually do nothing to provide economic opportunity for people. And that's why you see this ridiculousness that is the basis of their talking points.
Lulu, what's interesting, though, at least to this point, I mean, you just mentioned something policy-oriented. Scott mentioned something policy-oriented. That's not what this has been about, okay? Not at all. Whether that's an indictment on all of us, the America, it just hasn't been. It's been on...
Well, we saw the whole thing about them trying to, like, they're diverting from policy anytime everybody's asking about policy. So that's why it hasn't been a policy issue. Since we're the black people, we sit up there asking for policy. Y'all Negroes know y'all don't ask about no damn policy. Plies, you know what I'm saying? Y'all Negro know y'all don't sit up there and act about no damn policy there. Y'all just need to go on down there and vote for Kamala Harris. Go on, line up behind her. Fall in line and go on down there and vote, shout it. Go on, vote, shout it.
The numbers are looking far, far, far better. A smooth landing is obviously here. And so they move on from that. They're flailing. And the reason why they are is because there's one thing they do not want to talk about, and that is their actual agenda, their anti-freedom agenda that will have actually do nothing to provide economic opportunity for people. And that's why you see this ridiculousness that is the basis of their talking points.
Lulu, what's interesting, though, at least to this point, I mean, you just mentioned something policy-oriented. Scott mentioned something policy-oriented. That's not what this is been about, okay? Not at all. Whether that's an indictment on all of us, the America, it just hasn't been. It's been on a vibe and a feeling and a very different thing. So now you have Trump ramping up, as Steve's reporting, it's going to ramp up big time in the battleground states this week. She isn't. She has been really pulling back and hasn't been on the campaign trail because she's been preparing for the debate. Do you think that him ramping it up in rallies is going to make a difference?
I do. I actually think this is what he needs to do. He is best person to person. He is trying to get the people that support him out. Ultimately, I think that this election is going to come down to who shows up at the polls.
And so you do think it's a turnout?
I think it's a turnout election. I think it's going to be extremely important to have people come that support him. And he needs to be showing up and doing what he hadn't been doing actually up until now. And he...
You said Plies rose from the crypt for the presidential election campaign. That dude Plies something else.
Ancient spirits of evil, transform this decade from Tumamra, the ever-living.
Man, that's hilarious, man. That's hilarious.
He needs to be everywhere all at once. The fact that she's taking a break and sort of cutting into her momentum might not be the best strategy in the short term, but I think what is going to what you're going to see in the long term is that she's moving to Georgia. She's going to be, taking her show on the road, and she is going to have to sit down.
You know, Ja Rule singing, man. If Ja Rule was still popping, they would have him singing for Kamala's. You're going to vote for Kamala, baby. You're going to be broken crazy. You know what I'm saying? They'll have him up there doing something like that.
Down to talk to the media. And I just want to respond to something else. I mean, I don't think it is an indictment of the media. I think everyone in the media, all us journalists have been saying, please come and have an interview with us. Please come and have an interview with us. Ultimately, we can't tie her down and make her do it.
So then that means that she doesn't get your vote then. So I want you guys to pay very close attention because, again, this is the reason why you got to just let people say stuff and then the stuff that you need to hear come out of their mouth. She's basically saying that the media has been reaching out to Kamala Harris. And Kamala Harris is refusing. That's significant. Shout out to AW1. AW1 said, yo, that pit fighter drop is gold. Yeah, bro, I like it. I like it. You know what I'm saying?
Better, a smooth landing.
We're going to run this back again real quick, though, so because y'all need to hear this. Kamala Harris is actively dodging the media based on what they're saying here.
Down and speaking with you. And I think when moving forward, what are we, 36, 37 days now where she hasn't sat down and did any interview with anybody yet? That's a free pass. And quite frankly, it's an indictment on the media and journalism not to sit her down and talk to her. The American people deserve, they shouldn't have to settle. They deserve to hear from her. They deserve for her to answer tough questions, just like President Trump has done.
Right. But what happens, Congressman Rose, former Democratic Congressman, when Congressman Taylor's argument goes away on that one point? Because it's going to go away. She's going to do an interview. She was supposed to do one by the end of the month. Now tonight they're saying they're going to schedule one by the end of the month. I mean, look, she should have done one already. But if she comes out and does it, then that's gone. Then okay, she's done the interview.
Look, my Republican friends remind me of what my 4-year-old looks like, blindfolded with trying to hit the piñata at his birthday party, right? They're constantly swinging. One day it's about she's not doing an interview, which is ridiculous. The campaign's 30 days old and she's...
Yeah, bro, that's facts. We've been asking this exact same question. If you watch the stream that I did on the other channel earlier, we asked that question over there. Like, they keep saying that Trump is scared to debate her. They keep saying that Trump's scared of a quote unquote strong woman. But like I said, the only person that got evidence of being scared to debate a strong woman, or the only person that has gotten destroyed by a strong woman, is Kamala Harris. Trump not only debated but defeated Hillary Clinton, who I would say is probably politically stronger than Kamala Harris, and Kamala Harris got waxed by Tulsi Gabbard. So the only one that's actually showing evidence of the things that they're saying is Trump's kryptonite is Kamala Harris. You know what I'm saying?
Constantly out there, and she will, of course, do an interview very shortly. The next day, it's about inflation, but then the numbers are looking far, far, far better. A smooth landing is obviously here, and so they move on from that. They're flailing, and the reason why they are is because there's one thing they do not want to talk about, and that is their actual agenda, their anti-freedom agenda that will have actually do nothing to provide economic opportunity for people. And that's why you see this ridiculousness that is the basis of their talking points.
Lulu, what's interesting, though, at least to this point, I mean, you just mentioned something policy-oriented. Scott mentioned something policy-oriented. That's not what this has been about, okay? Not at all.
Not
and
at
whether
all.
that's an indictment on all of us, the America, it just hasn't been. It's been on a vibe and a feeling and a very different thing. So now you have Trump ramping up.
Yeah, I wouldn't say that applies for all of America. Some of us are not on just feeling and vibes and all of that. Some of us are actually, like, again, I've been waiting to hear both candidates' policies and their positions on cryptocurrency. And Kamala Harris didn't even mention anything about cryptocurrency at the DNC. I'm disappointed by that.
Steve's reporting it's going to ramp up big time in the battleground states this week. She isn't. She has been really pulling back and hasn't been on the campaign trail because she's been preparing for the debate. Do you think that him ramping it up in rallies is going to make a difference?
I do. I actually think this is what he needs.
Also, let me ask you guys this. How do you all feel about the presidents and their candidates, the president, vice president candidates? How do you all feel about their multitasking abilities? I wouldn't be surprised if there's more challenging things that have to get done at the same time, right, than a debate in campaigning as the president. So the fact that Kamala Harris kind of has to pause to concentrate on one thing in each direction, I don't know how good that is. I don't know if that's a good sign or not. Let me know what you guys think about that. How comfortable do you feel?
Needs to do. He is best person to person. He is trying to get the people that support him out. Ultimately, I think that this election is going to come down to who shows up at the polls.
And
And
do you think it's a turnout?
I think it's a turnout election. I think it's going to be extremely important to have people come that support him, and he needs to be showing up and doing what he hadn't been doing actually up until now. And he needs to be everywhere all at once. The fact that she's taking a break and sort of cutting into her momentum might not be the best strategy in the short term, but I think what you're going to see in the long term is that she's moving to Georgia. She's going to be, taking her show on the road, and she is going to have to sit down to talk to the media. And I just want to respond to something else. I mean, I don't think it is an indictment of the media. I think everyone in the media, all us journalists, have been saying, please come and have an interview with us.
Yes,
Please come and
I
have an
think
interview with us. Ultimately,
yes.
we can't tie her down and make her do it.
So as you guys can see, she just said in the media, we've been saying, please come have an interview with us. Please come have an interview with us. Please come have an interview with us. And the only person that's been denying that, the only person that's said, nah, I'm not going to come have a meeting with you, the only person that's denying access from the media to the from themselves in the media is Kamala Harris herself. Kamala Harris herself is making the active choice to ignore the media and to ignore the citizens of the United States. And that should be considered, if you ask me.
Election, I think it's going to be extremely important to have people come that support him, and he needs to be showing up and doing what he hadn't been doing actually up until now. And he needs to be everywhere all at once. The fact that she's taking a break and sort of cutting into her momentum might not be the best strategy in the short term, but I think what you're going to see in the long term is that she's moving to Georgia. She's going to be, taking her show on the road, and she is going to have to sit down to talk to the media. And I just want to respond to something else. I mean, I don't think it is an indictment of the media. I think everyone in the media, all us journalists, have been saying, please come and have an interview.
So now, if the people that put you in office can't get you to do something that they want you to do, is that a bad thing? Like, we want you to sit down and have a meeting with us, Kamala, but we just can't hold you down. We just can't hold you down. We just can't control her. We just can't hold her down. Okay, well, just remember that when she's the president and you're expecting that you have voted for her to represent your interests, and she starts over-representing her own interests and not really paying attention to what you got going on.
Interview with us.
Yes,
Please come and have an interview with us. Ultimately, we can't tie
Yes.
her down and make her do it.
Right. And she will do it, and then it'll be, was it too late?
Now on our top story tonight, the clash over next month's presidential debate. The two campaigns feuding over muting microphones as Donald Trump now suggests that he might not even show up. I want to bring in senior advisor to the Harris campaign, Ian Sams. Ian, thank you so much for joining us on this busy day. The Harris campaign is now pushing for different rules than the ones that were used at the end of June in that CNN debate between President Biden and former President Trump. This is what
So I want you guys to pay very close attention again, because in the mainstream media, right, they're telling half truths. Like, they are telling the truth, but they're only telling half of the truth. You see how they said the Harris administration is pushing for rule changes? It's the Harris administration that's pushing for rule changes. If you guys see that, give me a thumbs up. If y'all don't, give me a thumbs down.
Our top story tonight, the clash over next month's presidential debate. The two campaigns feuding over muting microphones as Donald Trump now suggests that he might not even show up. I want to bring in senior advisor to the Harris campaign, Ian Sams. Ian, thank you so much for joining us on this busy day. The Harris campaign is now pushing for different rules than the ones that were used at the end of June in that CNN debate between President Biden and former President Trump. This is what the vice president said last month when Trump floated the possibility of changing the debate schedule. Take a listen.
I'm ready to debate Donald Trump. I have agreed to the previously agreed upon September 10th debate. He agreed to that previously. Now it appears he's backpedaling.
It appears that he's backpedaling, but you're the one that's asking for rule changes. Or the Harris campaign. My bad. Harris campaign.
So much for joining us on this busy day. The Harris campaign is now pushing for different rules than the ones that were used at the end of June in that CNN debate between President Biden and former President Trump. This is what the vice president said last month when Trump floated the possibility of changing the debate schedule. Take a listen.
I'm ready to debate Donald Trump. I have agreed to the previously agreed upon September 10th debate. He agreed to that previously. Now it appears he's backpedaling, but I'm ready.
So now both candidates agree on September 10th. But when it comes to this issue of microphones, it appears that Vice President Harris is the one who is backpedaling when it comes to the debate rules.
So again, as you guys can see, this is CNN. This is CNN. I want to make that a point. This is CNN.
Microphones, as Donald Trump now suggests that he might not even show up. I want to bring in senior advisor to the Harris campaign, Ian Sams. Ian, thank you so much for joining us on this busy day. The Harris campaign is now pushing for different rules than the ones that were used at the end of June in that CNN debate between President Biden and former President Trump. This is what the vice president said last month when Trump floated the possibility of changing the debate schedule. Take a listen.
I'm ready to debate Donald Trump. I have agreed to the previously agreed upon September 10th debate. He agreed to that previously. Now it appears he's backpedaling, but I'm ready.
So now both candidates agree on September 10th. But when it comes to this issue of microphones, it appears that Vice President Harris is the one who is backpedaling when it comes to the debate rules.
Well, that's not entirely accurate. Let's take a step back. When she became the nominee, she agreed to the September 10th debate. We're looking forward to debating President Trump. I think she wants to share her vision for the future. As part of that, there's been back and forth discussions with ABC about how they want to format that debate. And President Trump has been all over the place. He backed out. He attacked the debate. He said we should go to Fox News before he decided to come back to the debate. But then we suspected, unbeknownst to him, his handlers were pushing to keep the microphones muted. And I think today we've actually settled this. Today in Virginia, President Trump was asked about it, and he said, quote, "It doesn't matter to me. I'd probably rather have them on." And so as far as we're concerned, this debate is over, and we look forward to the September 10th debate.
So is this matter resolved? Have you heard from the Trump campaign that they're actually happy to keep the microphones on?
Well, we've heard from the horse's mouth, right? We've heard him say that he's happy to do that. I think it's really important. The vice president thinks that it's really important that there be open and frank exchanges between the two candidates where they can get engaged with each other to talk about the issues that matter to the American people. And I think more importantly, the vice president wants the American people to see an unfettered Donald Trump, because that's what we're going to get if he becomes president again, now that the Supreme Court has basically...
Why is it that they act like we haven't seen this? It's weird how the news is acting like we haven't seen stuff that we've literally seen before.
We said he has unfettered power. And so I think it's important that in this election, in this moment, that the American people get to see the choice between the two candidates on stage, someone who's dangerous, someone who's wanting to take us back, someone who's pledging a dark vision for the country that rips away our freedoms and the things that we care about, and a candidate who's got an optimistic, patriotic, new way forward for this country that puts people's money back in their pockets, helps them get affordable housing, the things that people actually care about. And she wants to have that frank debate on stage where they can exchange each other in a real debate for the American people.
And one of the places that she may be able to speak to her views on a variety of issues is in an in-depth interview with a journalist. This is something that she has not done since President Biden stepped away. I admit, as a member of the press, this is something that we place a priority on. But I think there are a lot of anxious Democrats, there are a lot of independents and undecideds across this country who would like to hear more from her in more depth on specific issues. When is that going to happen?
Well, as the vice president said, and I think you all know, she said that she's going to schedule an interview by the end of the month. I think everybody can look at a calendar. But I think it's also important, I know it's lost sometimes in the discussion about an interview. The vice president's been taking questions from reporters who are covering her on the campaign trail. She's been traveling all across this country to all the battleground states with her running mate, Governor Walz. And she's been taking questions from reporters who are asking her about her plans, who are asking her about the race, who are asking her about her vision for the country, and she's been answering them. And she's done about 80 interviews this year. I know that maybe now people are just now paying attention to her, but she's been doing sit-down interviews all year.
They're trying to use old interviews that have nothing to do with it, that have nothing to do with her current presidential candidacy as credit for her doing interviews. At those times, she didn't even know that right now she'd be running for president. So none of those conversations are relevant. It's amazing the lengths of intellectual dishonesty that they'll go to. Did you guys hear that? Like, bro, come on, you know you reaching. You know what I'm saying? You know you reaching. Listen to this.
For the month, I think everybody can look at a calendar. But I think it's also important, I know it's lost sometimes in the discussion about an interview. The vice president's been taking questions from reporters who are covering her on the campaign trail. She's been traveling all across this country to all the battleground states with her running mate, Governor Walz. And she's been taking questions from reporters who are asking her about her plans, who are asking her about the race, who are asking her about her vision for the country, and she's been answering them. And she's done about 80 interviews this year. I know that maybe now people are just now paying attention to her, but she's been doing sit-down interviews all year. And you can expect that she'll be doing an interview, as she said, she'll schedule it by the end of the month.
Now, let me ask y'all this. These sit-down interviews that they saying that she did all year, how are those relevant to her running for president, though? Why would they even bring that up? How are these past interviews that she had where nothing was asked about what she planned to do as the president because nobody knew she was going to be the president? How can those possibly count in her favor? Somebody make it make sense.
All right, just a few days left before the end of the month. Ian, before I let you go, I just spoke with Democratic Congresswoman Debbie Dingell from Michigan, and she told me that she is hearing, quote, a lot of anger from her Michigan constituents about the DNC's decision not to have a Palestinian-American speaker at the DNC. In hindsight, do you believe that was a mistake?
Well, I think the DNC really enjoyed engaging with the uncommitted delegates and talking to them about the important issues that are happening in the Middle East. And I think for the vice president, and you heard her talk about this in her address on Thursday night, she believed that we need to get an end to this war, a permanent ceasefire, self-determination for the Palestinians. Israel protected their right to defend themselves. She's focused on the solutions, even during the convention, working on this issue with the president to try to come to an agreement that'll end this war and stop this suffering, the humanitarian suffering, the pain that you're seeing in Israel and Gaza. These are the things that she's focused on trying to end, and hopefully we make progress on that.
All right, Ian Sams from the Harris Walz campaign. Thanks so much for joining me.
Is Ashley Etienne, former communications director for the vice president, also Trump 2016 deputy communications director Brian Lanza, and CNN political commentator Alyssa Farr-Griffin. So Alyssa, the Harris campaign obviously.
What's going on here, y'all? What's going on here with this picture, y'all? What's this up here? What's going on here?
Things keeping the mics hot at the debate would be to their benefit. Do you agree?
Yeah, and it shows how much the Joe Biden calculations are different from Kamala Harris's. Kamala Harris is a confident debater. She's a former prosecutor. And I think their calculation is they want to see Donald Trump get a little unhinged. They want the American public to hear if there's crosstalk, if there's name calling, if there's some kind of, goading her into something while she has the floor. This is a change from the rules that were agreed to. But I also think that Donald Trump's message on Truth Social about this is kind of laying a pretext to back out of the debate if he wants to. He's been going after the moderators. He's been going after the rules because he knows this is a very different candidate than he's ever had to debate before. She's the younger candidate. She's got the momentum. It's not who you say.
That's what I keep trying to figure out. Shout out to Shaka. That's what I keep trying to figure out. I'm sitting here like,
Why are you gay?
I think it is. What y'all think? When they put that person back on the TV, y'all let me know what y'all think in the comments.
Are and have a press pool in so that the American public knows what's said off air. I don't see any reason the Harris campaign backs out, but I think Donald Trump's keeping that door open.
Brian, do you think he might back out?
No, listen, they're doing debates. I'm not worried about that. I think it's important to remember that Donald Trump, debated Hillary Clinton in 2016, and everybody felt she had momentum, and they felt she was an eight-dimensional candidate. And he, the viewers, at least the voters, ultimately thought he won those debates. So I think he's looking forward to it. I think from he's the standpoint is like, listen, a deal is a deal is a deal. You made the deal. You wanted the CNN rules. We're doing the CNN rules on ABC. Fine. The Harris debate said, fine, that's the final state. Now they're coming back and wanting to change the rules, and Trump being like a businessman and his campaign being like a business is looking for an opportunity to try to leverage a second debate. How important is it that you want these mics muted? If you want them really muted or if you want them unmuted, well, let's get a second debate on NBC. I think this is all just a strategy to try to get more debates, and that's a good thing.
Ashley, do you think the Trump campaign actually wants more debates? And why do you think the Harris campaign wants to change the rules around the microphones that the mics will be on?
Absolutely not.
This dude just said that they want more debates, and then this, whatever is going on over here, decided to start talking.
It said, fine, that's the final state. Now they're coming back and wanting to change the rules, and Trump being like a businessman and his campaign being like a business is looking for an opportunity to try to leverage a second debate. How important is it that you want these mics muted? If you want them really muted or if you want them unmuted, well, let's get a second debate on NBC. I think this is all just a strategy to try to get more debates, and that's a good thing.
Ashley, do you think the Trump campaign actually wants more debates? And why do you think the Harris campaign wants to change the rules around the microphones that the mics will be on?
Absolutely not. He doesn't want it with Kamala Harris. He doesn't want more than one debate with her. That's why, to Alyssa's point, he's trying to get out of this one. He definitely doesn't want a second. Here's the thing. The one thing, his ego could not take is to be beaten by a woman. And what I do know about Kamala Harris is a couple of things. One, she suffers absolutely no fools. Two, she's not making the same mistakes that Democrats have historically made. She's not going to pull any punches about his record, and she's going to lean into her own. And the third thing is the split screen will really say the entire story. Will tell the entire.
Well, what does her record look like? Let's talk about that. If she leans into her record, then that means that she has to lean into everything that's going on right now. Because right now, as the vice president, like, this counts as her record. Like, all of these failures, all of these missteps, the economy being out of control, the wars, everything that's going on now is part of her record, right?
story. You'll have one guy who'll look old, angry, and small up against the woman who looks like the very promise of America. So I don't think Donald Trump really wants it with Kamala Harris. That's why he keeps trying to back out of this thing and making excuse after excuse after excuse. And based on what I know about her, I wouldn't want to debate her either.
Alyssa, the Harris campaign put out this video today in response to the former president apparently waffling on the debate. I just want to play this.
Why not debate her?
Well, wait. But because they already know everything. They say, oh, Trump's, not doing the debate. That's the same thing they say now. I mean, right now I say, why should I do a debate? I'm leading in the polls. And everybody knows her. Everybody knows me.
And yeah, so they put a chicken sound over this. I bring this up just because it's notable how quicker the Harris campaign is to put out videos like this. And I mean, not that I don't think the Biden campaign probably would have thought to put out a video like this, but how quickly they put out something like this. I don't know if it's effective or not, but videos, memes, this is a campaign that seems far more nimble, even though a lot of the same people are involved with it.
Yeah, and Donald Trump's never run against a campaign like this. In fact, his team was always the one that was a lot quicker on social media. They would kind of play into the meme wars and have fast responses. And he's kind of met his match in this. Now, to be fair to Trump in these debates, listen, in 2016, he went against a very formidable foe with Hillary Clinton, and he performed well in those debates and obviously won. But this is different. Keep in mind, this election, he's running against an effective communicator as a former president post-January 6th, who's now a felon. There are things he's going to have to answer for in this debate that are so fundamentally different than 2016, where he had no record and he could kind of just give a vision and an idea of what he wanted. And I think he's afraid of that. We never really saw that moment in the Biden-Trump debate where he was called out on, his history of sexual abuse or the fact that he had these felony convictions. And I think that's something that he's really dreading having to face.
Brian, I want to play some of what the former president said today when asked if he was preparing for debate with Harris.
I'm not spending a lot of time on it. I think my whole life I've been preparing for a debate. You can go in and you can have all sorts of sessions. I watched Mitt Romney go in and he worked so hard. 4 weeks he locked himself into a log cabin, and then he developed lockjaw. He couldn't speak. You have to be real. You can't cram knowledge into your head for 30 years of knowledge in 1 week. So there's a little debate prep, but I've always done it more or less the same way. And you have to know your subject, and I think I know my subject. I think I know it better than anybody.
It is interesting, his approach to debates. I mean, there have been some who've said, well, look, he prepares more than he says, and that may be the case. But he definitely, if you look at his debates over the years, he says you have to be yourself. And whether you like it or not, he is that in these debates. He shows himself. He shows who he is, again, whether that's a good thing or not.
Yeah, listen, with respect to debates, you have to remember Donald Trump is very comfortable with his skin. He's very comfortable taking risks because he's been in the camera for a heck of a long time. So this is a very safe space for him. He is an effective communicator. At least he's always felt he has been, and he's his campaign's best communicator. So he overperforms in debates. From a traditional Republican operative standpoint, I'm always nervous when he does these debates. I always felt that he didn't do as well as he should have done. And then you sort of look at the polling a couple of days later after it stabilizes, he turned out he did okay. He's just different at debates. He decimated Hillary. He didn't do so well against Biden. Hillary's an exponentially stronger, more debater than Kamala Harris. They hear that Kamala Harris is an excellent.
Did he just say he didn't do that good against Biden?
He has been, and he's his campaign's best communicator. So he overperforms in debates. From a traditional Republican operative standpoint, I'm always nervous when he does these debates. I always felt that he didn't do as well as he should have done. And then you sort of look at the polling a couple of days later after it stabilizes, he turned out he did okay. He's just different at debates. He decimated Hillary. He didn't do so well against Biden. Hillary's an exponentially stronger, more debater than Kamala Harris. They hear that Kamala Harris is an excellent communicator. I think that's a joke at this point. She's literally avoiding every possible press opportunity in existence so she doesn't have to communicate her message to the people. So, I think we're ready for debates. We want more.
Well, for someone who's a joke, she certainly seems to have the Trump campaign freaked out and trying to, sweating it out right now. But again, I don't understand where they keep getting this from. Like, what they're doing now is they're running on basically we're just going to repeat and repeat and repeat and repeat something. And hopefully if we repeat it enough, then people will start to believe it. Because again, a lot of this stuff that they're saying, none of this is rooted in fact. This is all very, very far-fetched opinions at best. And even the nature of the opinions, they're far-fetched. You know what I'm saying? Your point about not doing interviews. She has not done a formal sit-down interview. And obviously, I think she said that they will do that by the end of this month. We'll see about that.
Which nothing is scheduled, by the way. Until a couple
so
days.
Now, by their logic, if she hasn't done a sit-down, is she bark, scared? Is she scared? By their logic, right? If we apply the same logic to Kamala Harris that we apply to Trump, then my question for you guys is she terrified of doing An interview with the press?
Yeah, well, we shall see.
With the Trump-Harris debate now just around 2 weeks away, Democrats are hoping that the vice president can pull off a much better performance than her boss, President Biden, whose disastrous showing ultimately forced him out of this race. Brian Todd is on this story for us. So, Brian, as we've all seen, these presidential debates can have huge consequences.
They really can, Alex. You know, analysts say that a bad moment at a debate can hurt you more than a good moment can help you. That's been the case throughout debate history and was especially true on June 27th.
I've been proposing that everybody, the millionaires pay 1%.
It was the debate performance that changed the dynamic of this race, ultimately ending President Biden's candidacy for re-election.
For what I've been able to do with the with the COVID, with dealing with everything we had to do with. Look, if we finally beat Medicare.
Man, this dude right here is the president. That guy right there is the president. What y'all think about that? That's the president.
Millionaires pay 1%.
It was the debate performance that changed the dynamic of this race, ultimately ending President Biden's candidacy for re-election.
For what I've been able to do with the with the COVID, with dealing with everything we had to do with. Look, if we finally beat Medicare.
Biden, after a disastrous debate, leaving top Democrats looking for a way to get him out of the race or openly questioning his fitness for office.
I think it's a legitimate question to say, is this an episode or is this a condition?
The debate changed the race. The debate just wait.
That's Nancy Pelosi throwing him under the bus like that. Mob wife.
Dealing with everything we have to do with. Look, if we finally beat Medicare.
Biden, after a disastrous debate, leaving top Democrats looking for a way to get him out of the race or openly questioning his fitness for office.
I think it's a legitimate question to say, is this an episode or is this a condition?
The debate changed the race. The debate just laid bare for the American public, and more importantly, Democratic members of Congress, that Joe Biden could not be their nominee.
From Biden to Nixon, a period spanning more than 60
now,
years.
what's interesting about this is that all they did was change the face, right? They changed the face, and now the same concerns of not being able to communicate appropriately, not being able to answer questions, not being able to be cognizant and respond well in a debate. As the debate approaches, those concerns are coming back up with Kamala Harris. So it's like we said in the beginning, it's almost like they didn't even make a swap. Would you guys agree?
Fraught moments in debates have often been decisive. September 1960, in the very first televised presidential debate, Richard Nixon, who was ill, was visibly sweating, while his opponent, John F. Kennedy, looked youthful and composed.
When the two were viewed side by side, and you asked yourself, whose finger would you like to be on the nuclear button, it became clear you didn't want the sweaty guy from California.
In the vice presidential debate in 1988, Dan Quayle characterized himself as a Republican version of a young John Kennedy, which teed up his opponent, Lloyd Bentsen, perfectly.
Jack Kennedy was a friend of mine. Senator, you're no Jack Kennedy.
That election season, Benson's running mate, Michael Dukakis, in his debate with George H.W. Bush, was asked a fateful question referencing his wife by CNN's Bernard Shaw.
Governor, if Kitty Dukakis were raped and murdered, would you favor an irrevocable death penalty for the killer?
No, I don't, Bernard, and I think you know that I've opposed the death penalty during all of my life.
It was terrible. This was the opportunity to show humanity, and instead, he made himself look like more of a humorless, emotionless robot than he had seen before.
There were the wordless missteps, the body language gaps. At a debate in 2000, Al Gore audibly sighs.
There's differences.
And in another debate that year, Gore gets a little too close to George W. Bush on stage.
And I believe I can.
Analyst Hans Nichols believes if the September 10th...
Hey, you see George Bush give him the nod. Hold on, George Bush said, hold on, bruh.
The steps, the body language gaps. At a debate in 2000, Al Gore audibly sighs.
There's differences.
And in another debate that year, Gore gets a little too close to George W. Bush on stage.
You see George Bush give him the nod? He gave him the nod like, okay, bruh, keep playing.
And I believe I can.
Analyst Hans Nichols believes if the September 10th event is the only debate between Kamala Harris and Donald Trump, there will be more pressure on both of them to perform well at that debate and really more pressure not to mess up. Of the two, Nichols believes there's more overall pressure on Vice President Harris because she's had a lot fewer unscripted moments recently, Alex.
All right, Brian Todd, if this debate becomes a pass, it's going to be a fascinating moment.
Right.
Thanks very much.
So, yeah, and then here on CNN, As you guys can see, this is CNN. They confirm that Kamala Harris has had less unscripted moments recently. So what does that all mean? What that all means is that somebody is playing games. Somebody is changing narratives. Somebody's coming up with talking points, and reality, in terms of reality, are not being discussed. A lot of diversion is what's going on here. You know what I'm saying? So shout out to everybody for being in here, man. That's all I got for you guys. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Make sure, if you haven't smashed the like button, that you take a moment, smash that like button. Also, if you guys haven't hit the bell, please take a moment, hit that bell. Shout out to the stream sponsors. We have 4 stream sponsors. Shout out to P. Make sure y'all show P some love. Shout out to Corey. Appreciate you, bro. Shout out to Shun C. Make sure you guys show Shun C some love. And shout out to Patrick. All right. Definitely appreciate it. Don't move a muscle. Let the music play. It'll take you through to the next stream. Hit the bell over there. Drop a comment. And I will catch you all over there. And as always, ladies and gentlemen,